Well, a couple of hours from now, I should be back with more on Sports Extra, but we have to move to Imola now because it is high time we turned our attention to 5 Live Formula One, and it's a very good afternoon to Ben Edwards.
Thank you, Kevin. Round 7 of the FIA Formula One World Championship is all set to get underway at the Imola circuit in northern central Italy. Welcome to our coverage on Sports Extra, and joining me we have former F1 mechanic and wheeler dealer presenter Mark Priestley, plus F1 correspondent for BBC Sports Andrew Benson. We're preparing for a 63-lap race around the classic 3-mile 19-turn circuit with elevation change of 30 metres and some tricky sections where it's very easy to make mistakes, as we saw yesterday in qualifying. Mark, you were a key member of the McLaren team some years ago. It's a McLaren pole position in the hands of the title leader Oscar Piastri, but with 4-time reigning champion Max Verstappen alongside him on the front row, we could be in for quite a battle right from the start here.
Yeah, we really could be. It's going to be an intriguing opener to this particular Grand Prix. The run down to Turn 1. Turn 1 itself is quite narrow. It's not really wide enough to get 2 cars side by side through it. We've seen many times. Actually, Max Verstappen involved in lots of those where things can go all pear-shaped right at the beginning of this race. But Oscar Piastri is one of these drivers, very young, but got a seemingly experienced head on his shoulders. He remains calm under pressure, and if anyone can take on Max Verstappen down into that very tight first corner, it's him.
Absolutely. Andrew, we've got the drivers just beginning to get into the cars. We're due to set off in just over 8 minutes time, and in a moment we will see exactly what tyres they're on, but actually strategy-wise this is not going to be one of the more complicated ones, I think.
Doesn't look like it. They've introduced the softest possible tyres for this race in an attempt to make it more than a locked-in one-stop, but unfortunately it's going to be a locked-in one-stop unless there's some kind of safety car intervention or something like that to disrupt things, and that means that the thing is the race might end up being quite static because overtaking is quite difficult, and the question is, obviously, if you are behind someone who you feel you're quicker than, how do you get past them? Do you undercut them, which means stopping first and then using the grip from the fresh tyres to try and to build a lead so that they come out behind you from their pit stop, or do you run longer? Here, because overtaking is so difficult, the running longer, the overcut as it's called, will be less appealing because of that.
Okay, well, Ferrari have a tough time at the moment. They have qualified down in 11th and 12th places. Lewis Hamilton down in 12th, Charles Leclerc in 11th. The lowest grid position for Charles this year. Actually, the last race of last year, Abu Dhabi, Leclerc did start down in 19th and ended up finishing 3rd. But I rather think that's not going to happen here at Imola. It's going to be very tough because, as Andrew was saying, it's tough to overtake here and tough to come up with some clever strategy. Can Ferrari get some points out of this? They're outside of the points when they start.
In all honesty, it's a tall order, which, in front of this huge crowd of tifosi, people dressed in red, massive red flags everywhere, the passion for Ferrari here, it's almost like a national team, as many people will recognise. There's a very high chance they're going to come away disappointed today because of all those things you just mentioned. Starting back there, not only is it difficult to move forward because of the nature of the track, but you're also in the middle of the melee, right bang in the middle of the pack, where when there is chaos, that's where it tends to happen. The first couple of corners, as I said, quite tight and tricky to get through, particularly at the start of the race. So they are in the worst possible position to get caught up in any accidents and any sort of nonsense that might happen early on. So it's going to be a difficult afternoon for them, no doubt.
It is. I'm going to be keeping an eye on both Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, though, just to see where they can get to, because, as you say, they've got massive support here at Imola. 2 of the Grand Prix taking place in Italy this year. We don't know whether the Imola track will be part of the World Championship going forward. It has come back in. It came back in 2020 during the COVID lockdown times, when it was great to see Imola back on the F1 calendar, but it's not definitely going to be in the future. Meanwhile, for those that perhaps didn't go so well in qualifying Ferrari, one of the ones that really did go well was Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll for Aston Martin, because neither driver had been into the top 10 in qualifying at all this year, and yet they've both got there. And Fernando starting in 5th place. That's impressive, because it was right back to China early last year that he was that far up the grid.
Yeah, it's been such a disappointing beginning to the year for Aston Martin. This is a really great result. Potentially the beginnings of a turnaround, because this result has come about largely as a response to a bunch of components they brought to the car, an upgrade package on the Aston Martin for this particular weekend. Lots of talk about how much influence Adrian Newey may have had. Adrian Newey having moved from Red Bull after years of success and joining the Aston Martin team earlier this year. this potentially could be one of the first little areas of influence he's had on the car, and early signs are that it's made a positive difference for them. So can he turn a positive result, a great grid slot from 5th, into a positive result? I think there's every chance he can, because that's not a fluke, that's genuine pace coming from the Aston Martin.
Absolutely right. Andrew, this is a track where it is very easy to make mistakes. We've seen a few, haven't we, coming through practice and qualifying, and particularly the accident that Yuki Tsunoda, Max Verstappen's teammate, suffered right in the early part of qualifying. He had a very nasty accident, but thankfully he's okay. The car has been completely rebuilt around a spare chassis.
That's right. I mean, all the accidents that have happened this weekend, whether it be Tsunoda or Franco Colapinto in the Alpine, or both Racing Bull drivers also spun, one of them hit the wall, one of them managed to avoid it, have come about for the same reason, basically. The drivers just taking too much of the curb when they're going too fast. That unsettles the car and they end up spinning. And it's a bit like these, it's a similar situation in Japan. These are like old school circuits that the drivers absolutely love driving on because of this heightened risk. But the flip side of it is they're not great for racing on sometimes. But what it does mean is there's a lot of jeopardy going into this first lap, for example. They'll all be wanting to make places up into this first corner, but they know if they go off track, they might be able to rejoin it, but they'll probably damage the car in doing so, and that could ruin their entire race. So it really asks a lot more of a racing driver, this sort of circuit, than the sort of some of the more modern autodromes.
Absolutely right. Well, let's hear from the man who will be starting from pole position and see how he reacted to qualifying and where it all went well. Let's hear from Oscar Piastri.
I think the second half of the lap is where we seem strong. Max has been quick in the first half of the lap all weekend, and we've always looked a bit better in the second half. So I think from turn 9 onwards, that's where I seem to gain the time back. The end of the lap was a bit difficult with all the traffic, but no, it was still a really good lap, and I was very happy. So yeah, hopefully we can have a good race starting from pole.
Well, we shall see how Oscar Piastri deals with starting from pole, particularly when he's got a big rival alongside. Max Verstappen, let's see how he thinks the start of the race may go.
Yeah, we'll try to have a good start naturally, but it's a very long race. A lot can happen also with the tire management, and that's what we have to try and understand, I guess, anyway, a bit better. So we'll see what we can do.
Well, that's hearing from Max Verstappen. We know how the lineup is going to be with Tsunoda and Behrman right down at the back of the grid. Hulkenberg and Esteban Ocon, they're down near the back of the grid as well. Mark, just looking at the grid order, of course, for Franco Colapinto, he did get a penalty yesterday after that off as well, so he's starting down in 16th. Many of the youngsters are starting quite a long way down. Even Kimi Antonelli, he's starting down in 13th place. So there's a lot of work to do for some of the rookies, although Isaac Hadjar's done a very good job.
Yeah, he was the star of the rookies, I think, Hadjar, over the course of this weekend so far, and actually been a really solid start to his career in Formula One. I think the most disappointed probably is going to be Antonelli. He is a home hero, Italian lad that was brought up literally about half an hour from this circuit, so this really is very much his home Grand Prix. Huge support for him here. He brought his own classmates, he's still going through schooling, brought his classmates to the circuit to see what was going on earlier in the weekend. Wasn't able to live up to much of that hype with a difficult qualifying, when his teammate George Russell really did get the most out of the Mercedes. So a bit of a disparity, but it leaves him with a very difficult task this afternoon.
Yeah, it will be tough to come from that 12th place on the grid for Antonelli, but with so much support he's got here this day at a home track, it really will be interesting to see where he gets to. But as you mentioned, George Russell did do an excellent job. That's 3 times he has been third on the grid in the last 4 Grand Prix, and it's also personally his best ever grid position here at Imola. So he'll be starting in 3rd place, George Russell. But as we mentioned, the Ferraris, they've got a lot of work to do, starting down in 11th and 12th places. Lando Norris has got work to do, of course, as well, because he will be starting from 4th place. That's the 3rd time he's been outside the top 3 in the last 4 Grand Prix. But he has had 5 podiums, of course, this year. He is 2nd in the championship to his teammate, Oscar Piastri. But we are going through a time now in the season where he's got to start scoring more points than his teammate, and right now his teammate's in such a strong form, ready to start from pole.
And I think that's getting into Lando's head as well, that his teammate, in a year where that championship could go down to one or other of the 2 McLaren drivers, there's a long way to go, but that's the way it's looking now. He doesn't want to let his teammate get too far ahead. He's won 4 out of 6 Grand Prix so far, Piastri. He has a great chance of making that 5 today.
He does, that's right. We're going to have to see how this all works out. Lovely weather. There is a bit of a breeze now, which is a headwind breeze in the DRS zone. There's only one DRS zone around this Imola circuit, but in some ways that will help the cars cars behind, because they'll get more of a toe effect going down the long straight down towards the first corner. So we'll see whether that does actually allow for a little bit more overtaking. The cars are now getting ready to move away on the formation lap, and we will soon get to see a very, very interesting race. It is time for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. The grid for today's race: Oscar Piastri from McLaren on pole position with Max Verstappen alongside on the front row of the grid. George Russell starts in third place, but Lando Norris down in fourth, needing to score more points. Fernando Alonso an excellent fifth on the grid for Aston Martin. Sixth, Carlos Sainz, who's been consistently rapid in the Williams recently. His teammate Alex Albon starts in seventh place. Lance Stroll in the other Aston Martin is in eighth position. Ninth place to Isaac Hadjar with Racing Bulls, and in 10th position Pierre Gasly for Alpine. Outside the top 10, both Ferraris are back on 11th and 12th places. Charles Leclerc 11th, Lewis Hamilton in 12th. We've got Kimi Antonelli in further back, and then it is Gabriel Bortoletto. He starts in 14th place. 15th place for Liam Lawson. 16th for Franco Colapinto, had an off in the qualifying yesterday. Nico Hulkenberg and Esteban Ocon on the penultimate row of the grid, and Ollie Behrman and Yuki Tsunoda had a nasty accident yesterday and a rebuilt car for today. He starts right down at the back of the field, and a shame, a week after a birthday. He turned 25 years old last weekend. Well, the cars are on the formation lap. Mark Priestley and Andrew Benson with me, and we are looking forward especially to the opening lap. Can be very, very dramatic here at Imola.
Yeah, and crucial. The opening lap of this race really is going to set the tone for the remainder of the Grand Prix, because whoever gets through the first couple of corners in the lead of the race has the ability to control the pace, and that's going to be critical. We're pretty sure this is going to be a one-stop race for most people, but the timing of that one singular pit stop is going to be determined, largely at least, by the guy leading the Grand Prix, who can decide how quickly they run away and look after their tyres. So really, really excited and intrigued to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, can Oscar Piastri take a fourth victory in a row? It does seem remarkable. Max Verstappen's had one win this year, Lando Norris has had one win, and Oscar Piastri's had all the other wins. So it has been a remarkable season for the Australian driver, who's still relatively inexperienced compared, of course, to Max Verstappen and even Lando Norris, but he's delivering so well. Can he take yet another victory? We're going to find out. They're just coming up towards the grid now.
Yeah, and as Max Verstappen pulls up onto the front row alongside Oscar Piastri, it's going to be all eyes on him, because he desperately needs to get in front of Oscar Piastri to lead the race. The way I just talked about it playing out with whoever controls the pace, Max feels like he needs to be there in the way that he was in Japan, controlled the place in that race and won the Grand Prix.
It is the 400th ever Grand Prix for the Red Bull team. Are they going to be able to take a win? Because Max has done so well here, taking victories in the last 3 Grand Prix at Imola. It's a track he loves. He talks about it regularly, really enjoys driving here. Let's see how this is all going to go. So the front cars are already on the grid. We've still got the last few cars to move into position. And actually, yes, coming from the pit lane will be Yuki Tsunoda. He's just made it back into the pit lane because they've made some changes to that car under the regulations. Yuki Tsunoda has to start from the pit lane. So Ollie Behrman is just moving into 19th place at the back of the grid. We're about to see the green flag to show the cars are all in place, and we are ready to go racing for the 5th Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at Imola in Italy. The lights are coming on up front. Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen, lights out, away we go, and it's a good start by Oscar Piastri. He does get away very well, and it's also a good start by George Russell. Russell is actually challenging Verstappen, believe it or not, for second place as they're coming down towards the first chicane. Verstappen goes round wide. Oh my goodness, that's a brilliant move. Max Verstappen takes the lead. What a brave outbreak that was, and he did it perfectly without running wide. Second place now Piastri, third Russell, fourth Norris, and then fifth place Fernando Alonso. But what a pass pass that was.
It was perfect from Verstappen. It wasn't messy, it wasn't overly aggressive. There was no question about was it legal. It was just great. And I think actually you could probably argue a little bit too cautious from Oscar Piastri. He opened the door and you don't need to open it much for Max Verstappen to go through. He's already built a gap of around half a second over Oscar Piastri.
It's clean so far. We sometimes see incidents on the opening lap here through the chicanes. I remember a couple of years ago, Sainz and Ricciardo making contact by popping over the curb too much, but everyone's clean so far. Verstappen has taken the break away from Oscar Piastri, with Russell in third place, Lando Norris in fourth, Fernando Alonso in fifth, Carlos Sainz ahead of his teammate Albon as before, Lance Stroll still in eighth, ninth place for Gasly, who's gained one place, and Charles Leclerc has gained one place. He's into 10th place. It's Isaac Hadjar who's lost a couple of places. Further down the grid, by the way, Colapinto's dropped 2 places as well, and Hamilton did drop 1. He's down into 13th place.
Yeah, it wasn't a good start from Hamilton. He got actually caught up behind his teammate and allowed Antonelli to zip past in front of him. So Hamilton dropping back, but the home hero Antonelli moving up 1 position. But all of those guys still buried deep in the midfield, and out front it's Verstappen with a 1.2 second lead over Piastri. We said how crucial this was going to be to control the place, to have the race in your hands as one of the Hasses comes in for a very first pit stop. It's Esteban Ocon. Did he go onto the hard tyre? He did. He may well now decide to make that all the way to the end of this Grand Prix.
We're just looking at a replay of that pass, and I have to say that was brilliantly done by Max Verstappen, but sensible by Piastri. Sensible, because in some places you might have seen them make contacts and both of them could have gone off, but Piastri using his head and thinking, no, okay, he's got this, I'm just going to hold my position.
Yeah, I think Piastri was a little cautious in his way on the way into the first corner, which allowed Max Verstappen to be aggressive and make his way through, but actually it was very, very clean all the way through. Both drivers dealing with it well, but it's now Max Verstappen in prime position.
Yeah, the problem for Piastri was that he defended on the inside, which meant that he had to brake a little bit earlier because he had a shallower entry to the corner. Max Verstappen took advantage of that in absolutely spectacular style to go around the outside, and he was cleanly alongside him, tiny little bit ahead as they turned into the second apex, and Piastri had no choice but to let him go.
Well, it was extremely well done. Verstappen is the leader by 1.4 seconds over George Russell in third place. Lando Norris in fourth, as he qualified, of course. Further down the order, we have seen Ocon come to the pits. Lewis Hamilton trying to make a break here. He's attacking Kimi Antonelli, the man who now drives Mercedes, unlike him, and he didn't quite make it through there. He had a little chance to get alongside Kimi Antonelli, but it didn't quite happen.
Yeah, good clean stuff again between those two. These the guys that sort of Antonelli took Lewis's seat, of course, at the end of last year at Mercedes, but nice and clean. But it remains Antonelli in front. There is a bit of a mixture of tyres. The top 10, they're all on the medium tyre, but Lewis Hamilton's on the hard. There's a few guys down the back: Hulkenberg, Behrman, Tsunoda on the hard.
Leclerc's got past Gasly, but Gasly's on the gravel. Gasly's gone on the gravel and he's lost a bunch of places now. We will have to have another look at that in a moment to see if there was space given, or did he make a mistake by running wide, but that has dropped Gasly well outside the points. Well, tricky section going on here, and we shall see how it goes. But Gasly is down in 14th. Well, Max Verstappen has taken the lead from the start of this race with an absolutely brilliant, brave move and a clean move on Oscar Piastri. So, Max Verstappen leads, Piastri is in second place, George Russell is in third, and Lando Norris is in fourth, exactly where he started the race. So, just keeping an eye on how this move goes for Lewis Hamilton as he attacks Kimi Antonelli as well. But yeah, for Gasly, down into 14th place, that is a big hurt for the Alpine team. The other car from Alpine, 17th, Colapinto. But we will get another look at that in just a moment. But Charles Leclerc, of course, has moved up a little bit more. He's now into 9th place.
Yeah, he's certainly the more positive of the two Ferrari drivers at this point. But it's so difficult battling your way through the midfield. I was just starting to say there's a slight mix of strategy in terms of tyres. There's a few people started on the harder tyre. That includes Antonelli. It includes Lewis Hamilton. They will hope to go much longer, much deeper into this race before making what we expect to be their just one and only pit stop. There's an interesting one for me. Esteban Ocon, I didn't see a reason for a pit stop. It could just be that they're going for a bit of a gamble, getting their one mandatory pit stop out of the way at the end of lap 1 while the field are bunched up onto the hard tyre, which we should now see all the way to the end of the race. Bear in mind, yes, he's about 15 seconds or so back from the pack at the moment, but everyone else in front of him will have to stop again, whereas he will not. So he may well make up a few places with that. not a bad move if you're right at the back of the field.
I agree. No, it was worth a risk when you're at the back to do something like that. We'll see whether it works for Ocon to go onto the hard tyres. But as you mentioned, it is interesting that both Antonelli and Hamilton, who are having this battle, are both on the hard compound tyre. Charles Leclerc's on the medium tyre, like everybody else in that top 10. But Charles Leclerc now beginning to put a bit of pressure under Lance Stroll. So Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin is holding on to 8th place, but Charles Leclerc is getting closer and closer. And it does look as though the Ferrari has a better race pace than it had a pace in qualifying. We are just having a little look at the start once again as how it went, because Piastri was actually off the line incredibly well, wasn't he?
Yeah, ironically, it wasn't the best start for Verstappen. Russell got a better start, Piastri got a better start, but it was the run into turn 1 where Verstappen found himself on the outside, was very late on the brakes, aggressive, as I said, but clean, and went all the way around the outside of Piastri, who dealt with it very well, I have to say, allowed him the space to race, but Verstappen comes out of that little battle on front.
George Russell actually made a good start, didn't he?
He really did, yeah, really good, but he got bulked up behind the McLaren of Oscar Piastri and actually had to back off on his way down into turn 1, which allowed Verstappen to go through.
Piastri, what was he doing?
He obviously felt that Piastri almost braked too early, did he? Or?
Well, I think, as Andrew said, he was on the inside. This is lap 1. You've got a car that's full of fuel. You don't really know how your tyres and how your brakes are going to behave in that situation, so he had to be a little bit cautious. He got off the gas a little bit early. He sort of rolled down towards turn 1. That stopped George Russell making progress, but it allowed that door to be wide open as Max Verstappen came through. So frustration on the part of Russell because he could not make the most of that excellent start that he got.
Now, we are going to have a little look when Gasly went off. Okay, it was his own mistake. He certainly wasn't squeezed out by Charles Leclerc. He was just running too much speed, wasn't he? And that allowed Charles Leclerc to get the line alongside, and Gasly lost a bunch of places.
Yeah, it's a shame, actually, because Gasly's shown some really decent performance throughout the course of this weekend in the Alpine. Not something we've been able to say very often this season. So he's now dropped all the way back down to P14 with his teammate Franco Colapinto, who had a big crash in qualifying down in 17th. We heard him on the radio at the start of this race telling his team how grateful he was for all the hard work. This is his first Grand Prix for Alpine. Starting all the way down the back as he did after that crash is not ideal. He's into P17, a lot of work to do. He just needs to stay clean, get it to the end and make this a solid Grand Prix to open his account with Alpine.
So Max Verstappen is our race leader, Piastri in second place, but Piastri has set the fastest lap of this race so far. George Russell is in third, Lando Norris in fourth, Fernando Alonso in fifth, ahead of Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon. Lance Stroll still under pressure from Charles Leclerc, 8th and 9th, and the top 10 completed by Isaac Hadjar, who didn't have the perfect opening lap. Antonelli then in 11th place, Hamilton in 12th, Bortoletto is in 13th, ahead of Gasly, who's dropped all the way down to 14th place, Liam Lawson 15th, and Hulkenberg, Colapinto, Behrman, Tsunoda, and at the back is Esteban Ocon.
What's interesting at the moment, Ben, is Verstappen and Piastri are kind of pulling a gap on Russell, but Russell's holding up the rest of the field, and Fernando Alonso, interestingly, in the Aston Martin, is hanging on very well to Lando Norris's McLaren, not losing any ground at all, and there's a big stack of people from behind Russell all the way down to about 13th place. Now, is that Russell managing his tyres? Is he going too far managing his tyres? Is he just lacking pace in the Mercedes? We'll have to see.
That's a good point. And interestingly, although I mentioned Piastri had set fastest lap, now it's Verstappen who has set fastest lap. So they're transferring it one way to the other, and Piastri's gap just opened up a little bit more now, up to 1.6 seconds.
And because Russell is seemingly this sort of cork in the bottom, holding a few people up now, keeping the gaps really quite small, and that whole bunch of medium tyre runners behind Russell all the way down to Antonelli and then Hamilton, who are on the hard tyre. This is great news for the hard tyre runners. They're not allowing the medium shod cars to disappear down the road. They're staying very much in touch, and when the medium cars have to come in for an earlier pit stop than we would expect those two on the hard tyres to do, they should have a clear run in front of a clear track and be able to open up the pace that they should still have in that hard tyre at that point to try and open up some sort of gap and move up the field.
Yeah, good point. Verstappen still has fastest lap. They did virtually exactly the same lap on that, on 1 minute 21.4 from both Verstappen and Piastri, as Lewis Hamilton is still putting the pressure on Kimi Antonelli for outside the points at the moment. They're racing for what is 11th place. Just up ahead of them is Isaac Hadjar, who might become a part of it as well. He dropped out a couple of places at the start of the race, but he is still in 10th position, potentially on for a point. Up front, Verstappen, Piastri, the gap remaining around the same. Russell still in that third place, as Andrew was telling us, dropping away a little bit from the others, and he is under pressure from Norris. So we're going to get the two Brits fighting fighting each other, I think, fairly soon now, because George Russell is very good, of course, at holding his position. He's a tough guy to overtake, but Lando Norris with the McLaren, we do think that McLaren's going to have good race pace throughout.
Yeah, and it's pretty crucial for Lando to try and find a way past that Mercedes. As Andrew said, the Mercedes is a little bit off the pace of the front two. Lando does not want to get caught up for too long behind George Russell, which means that he opens up a massive gap to Verstappen and to Piastri in front. That will ruin Norris's race. If he's got any hope of doing anything severe in this race, he needs to remain in touch. That means getting past. He's in the DRS zone right now, but we know how tricky it is. He's closing underneath the rear wing of the Mercedes. Is he going to be close enough into the first corner? Goes to the outside. No, Russell's got it nicely under control and covered this time around, but Norris is all over the back of the silver Mercedes.
Yeah, we are watching from on board Lando, and he's going to have a little look again, although coming into the second chicane, oh, that's a difficult place, and George Russell does exactly what he needs to do. And one of the things you've got to be wary of, if you're going to be chasing another car and trying to overtake lap after lap after lap, you will put more strain on your tyres. So you've got to try and sort of go for it one go, and then if it's not working, sometimes you actually have to back off a little bit, look after those tyres again.
It's exactly the same position that Lando's found himself on a number of occasions, even Miami last time out, where he cost himself time by spending lap after lap stuck behind somebody. You're right, using up tyres. They overheat when you're chasing a car in the dirty air from the car in front of you. He needs to get past, he needs to do it quickly to be able to keep hold of those tyres and the performance from them to run long enough into this race that he doesn't end up compromising his own strategy.
Well, let's listen to Russell.
I'm not sure how I'm going to make it to the target. Pushing like this.
That's an interesting one. When he's talking about a target lap, he's talking about how far into the race he goes before they make the tyre change, and he obviously feels he's working those tyres hard already.
Well, we would expect the medium tyre runners to probably have to start thinking about pit stops somewhere between kind of lap 18, somewhere to lap 24, something in that window. Here goes Lando again up the outside, again into turn one. Russell's got him covered, but Russell's sliding. He's got no grip in that car, hence him being slow, and Lando is all over the back of him, having another go. He's on the grass.
Oh my goodness, that was a bit tight then. I wondered if he was going to get alongside, but he didn't quite. As you say, there was a kick of gravel up in the air as well as he went run wide, but he's okay. But I have to say, if you watch out his mirrors, because Fernando Alonso is ready to take advantage of anything that goes wrong between those two up ahead of him, while Verstappen still leads from Piastri. It is the battle for third we are focused on at the moment between Russell, Norris and potentially, as I say, Alonso not far away.
Yeah, this is dream stuff for the two out in front because they're building a big gap. Russell's holding everybody up, but it's an absolute nightmare for everybody close behind Russell.
Just drove on the grass.
George just telling his team that, yeah, Norris just drove on the grass. He did, but he got away with it.
I'm not sure the relevance of that particularly. No. I think it's desperation if anything else. But we heard Charles Leclerc talk a moment ago that said the tyres are better than expected. He's on the medium tyre in that Ferrari, stuck in the middle of the pack, yes, but the gaps, as we said, not very big between any of the cars, between Russell and the midfield runners. So if they're working well on the Ferrari on that medium compound, it seems they're definitely not working well on the Mercedes.
Let's see whether Lando can do it again. He's got in the DRS zone. George Russell's having to protect. Lando's now going to the outside as they head down towards the first chicane, but George breaks late in the middle and manages to do it. Does he run wide on exit? No. And in fact, if anything, it's Lando's car that was slithering around a little bit, but he's right there. He's going to have another go into the second chicane. Can he go around the outside? Yes, he can. He's got past George Russell this time, and that means Lando Norris is up into third place, and Russell's got to watch his mirrors now from Fernando Alonso. That was a good move in the end.
Really good move, and he had to get it done. He had to get it done quickly, as we said. It took him a couple of laps, but importantly, he's now through with only a 7-second gap to Piastri, his teammate. Sounds like a lot, but it's not the end of the world, with a long way to go in this Grand Prix. If he'd been stuck behind George Russell for a few more laps, that gap would have opened up to something that might not be recoverable. That was a really good racing move from Lando Norris.
Yeah, we are just looking at a replay of what he did, and he got a great slipstream out of the first chicane into the second one, then round the outside. Yeah, and in the end, actually, George, to be fair, he kind of knew he didn't have the ability to break that late. He didn't try too hard. Norris had the space, and that has made the change. So we now have the McLarens running second and third, and in fact, George Russell's been told to make a pit stop. Yeah, he's already coming in.
So he's going to, in fact, someone else has dived in as well. Is that a Williams? Carlos Sainz as well. So both diving into the pits now. Let's see what they go on to. to. It's almost certainly going to be the hard tyre. Do they gamble on thinking about a 2-stop, or is this a hard tyre all the way to the end? I suspect it probably is. Yeah, hard tyres onto Russell's car. Away he goes in 2.4 seconds. Sainz in behind him in the Williams. That one, I think, a little bit longer, 3.4 seconds for the Williams. So a little bit of difference between the two. But they're back in this race. They'll drop all the way to the back of the field, though, so closely bunched up are most of the runners now. And that is not a good start to the Grand Prix for George Russell.
No, that's not ideal, that's for sure. But Charles Leclerc, interestingly, he's already been into the pits, hasn't he? So Charles Leclerc down in 15th place. I think he came out just ahead of them as they came out then.
That's interesting, because it was Leclerc saying the tyres feel good. They feel good, better than they expected on the medium tyre. Here's Piastri.
I think Plan A is very ambitious at the moment.
Copy, Oscar.
Well, you'd expect Plan A to be the one-stopper, and ideally, as I've said, that's probably looking like a lap 18 to maybe lap 22, 23, something in that sort of range for that one and only stop. If he's suggesting that's looking optimistic, as we're starting to see, maybe these tyres are not hanging on as well as everybody predicted they might. We might see some early pit stops. We may even see a couple of 2-stoppers happening.
I think this is going to be very, very interesting. Fernando Alonso has also come in now. They've almost got to react, because Leclerc has taken advantage, by making that early stop, because he is ahead of Russell and Sainz, and that has helped Leclerc. Now, that's a very early stop. We're just watching Fernando Alonso in the pits. That was a pretty straightforward stop for him. But, of course, this drops them way down the order, and we could see some big changes going on. And bear in mind, Lewis Hamilton and Kimi Antonelli, they started on the hard compound tyre. Antonelli now up into 7th, Hamilton in 8th. And Hulkenberg, he started on the hard, he's now up into 9th place.
And the other thing that's affecting this decision of all the teams is they've got the information from all the guys that started on the hard tyre, knowing that tyre is actually performing really well. It's seemingly a pretty decent match for the medium tyre in terms of lap time, in terms of pace. So if you can get the decent pace out of it, and we're pretty sure it'll go all the way to the end, we know that. So getting onto that tyre, getting the run all the way to the end of Grand Prix now without any further stops, in theory, there's no real compromise to doing that.
I think Alonso had to do that stop then, because to hold his position, which they have done, he is behind Russell. But remember, as I mentioned, he's also behind Leclerc now, which is a bit of a surprise, bearing in mind that Leclerc started this race down in 11th, whereas Alonso started in 5th. In comes Piastri from 2nd place. Oscar Piastri, the man who was on pole, he's come in for a pretty early stop here.
It's not a great stop. It's not a great stop.
No. Slow stop, 3.6 seconds.
There was a problem on the right front. There was also a separate problem on the rear of the car as well, so that will have cost him a little bit of time. But I think these pit stops are happening now, certainly for Piastri, because there's gaps opening up with the likes of Aston Martin's Fernando Alonso, Russell, Leclerc. All those people have made the stop, which has opened up a gap for Piastri to drop into. So he does now come out into nice, good, clean air, which will allow him to build up his pace and get a good run.
But what McLaren advantage have here is that they could do different strategies between him and Lando Norris, because they're both up there challenging Max Verstappen, the race leader. Let's just have another look at Fernando Alonso's pit stop. This one for Aston Martin actually seemed to go pretty well. Was the exit okay as well? Looks as though certainly it was clear.
Brakes are on fire, so left front brake is on fire as he left. In fact, both front brakes. It's not actually that uncommon to see, and actually once you get up to speed, the fire just gets put out by the airflow going through it. But looking back at the McLaren pit stop, it was a struggle in the front, to the front right, just didn't go on first time. The wheel nut didn't engage, or the gun didn't engage with the wheel nut. But 3.6 I think it was for McLaren. It's not the end of the world, but it's certainly not. It's a good second or so slower, and as we know, a second in Formula One can feel like an absolute lifetime.
I'll tell you what surprises me a little bit. Lando Norris, who moved up to 3rd, but he was around 7 seconds behind. But the gap between Verstappen and Norris now is over 10 seconds. So the pace that Verstappen is going at right now on the medium compound is very impressive. And Lando Norris does not seem to have that same pace.
No, because Max Verstappen has been in clear air for the entirety of this Grand Prix, which means it's much easier to look after those tyres than it has been for Lando, who spent a few laps trying desperately to get past the Mercedes George Russell. That would have taken life out of those tyres. We're seeing people pit earlier than expected on the medium, which suggests they're not working as well. Maybe Lando's pace is just now starting to fall away as a result of that battle with George Russell.
No, it's a good point. Yes, Lance Stroll having made the pit stop as well. But Verstappen and Norris, they're not hugely different lap time last time around. Norris was actually a 10th of a second quicker on the last lap. But as I say, that gap has come up to 10 seconds between 1st and 2nd. And of course, Oscar Piastri, the other main rival, who's already made an earlier pit stop. He's down in 11th place now, having made that pit stop. He's some 31 seconds behind the race leader. We know that the pit stop time is around 27-28 seconds, so it still means that Verstappen's in a good position at the moment, Andrew.
Piastri's in a sticky place now, though, Ben. He's behind Yuki Tsunoda by about 3.5 seconds. That's, of course, Max Verstappen's teammate. Verstappen's got a 31-second lead over Piastri, so I think there's not really a lot Piastri can do at the moment about Verstappen's lead, because Red Bull can pick Verstappen whenever they want, and as long as he does it before he's sort of less than 25 seconds in front of Piastri, he'll come out in the lead, apart from Norris, and the race is in the bag pretty much.
Yeah, that's a very good point, so we shall keep an eye on that. We're riding on board with Lewis Hamilton at the moment, and his Ferrari is running in 6th place. He's still chasing down after Kimi Antonelli, as they have been playing right from the start. You've got one of the great rookies, the 18-year-old Kimi Antonelli, up against one of the most experienced 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, and yet they're still doing the same battle lap after lap.
He's getting a very good view of the back end of his old car, isn't he? And seeing how that Mercedes works. And I know from seeing Lewis at work, he'll be taking some notes here. He'll be mentally understanding what that Mercedes is doing, with a view to sort of engineering the sort of performance of his own car. He'll be feeding that back, I'm sure, at the end of the Grand Prix, having spent so much time behind it. But that's a battle that seems to run and run and run. There's not enough pace difference between the two of them for Lewis Hamilton to find a way past yet.
Other thing that's worth mentioning is that behind Piastri, who's obviously technically de facto second at the moment after Norris stops, is Charles Leclerc by 5 seconds. He's undercut nearly everybody up to what is probably a 3rd or 4th place realistic, from 9th when he was stopped. So that's an incredible job by Ferrari and him.
And going quickly on the hard tyre, fastest lap of the race, so that car seemed to work better on the hard tyre than it has on the medium tyre early in the Grand Prix.
Very, very interesting. We are on lap 17 out of 63 at Imola, and Max Verstappen, who started in 2nd place but made a brilliant move in the first corner on Oscar Piastri to take the lead of the race. Verstappen still leads. He's not made a pit stop yet. Lando Norris is currently in 2nd place, having started 4th. Listen to Tsunoda.
So car behind is Piastri at 1.5 seconds. He is Max's race, so do your best to hold him up.
And that's no surprise that the team are telling Yuki Tsunoda, try and defend your position as Oscar Piastri catches, because Piastri has made a pit stop, the man who was on pole position, so this is going to be a bit of a challenge for him.
That's exactly what I was referring to in that last thing. Also, it's worth pointing out that Fernando Alonso stopped because he was protecting himself against Carlos Sainz, who stopped on the lap before. He did get out ahead of him, but he's now been passed by the Williams on the track.
That's a good point. Let's quickly run through that order again, though. But this is a mixed order, because a lot of these have made stops, many haven't. So,
well, it's actually the whole top 10 haven't. The whole second half of the grid have made one stop.
That's great. Thank you very much for that, Mark. Yeah, so it's Verstappen, Norris, Albon now in 3rd place, Hadjar up into 4th, despite dropping out of the top 10 at the start. And then you've got some of those that started at the back on hard tyres, as you say. So Antonelli is 5th, Hamilton is 6th, Hülkenberg 7th, Colapinto's actually up in 8th place, Behrman, who was right down at the back of the grid, 9th, and Tsunoda, who started from the pit lane, he's in 10th, but he is just about to be passed, I think, by Oscar Piastri. Now, he's been asked by his team to defend if possible. I don't think there's much he can do. Well, it's not over yet. Piastri going around the outside into the first chicane, and he makes it happen. Yeah, so Tsunoda could not do much there, and as much as the team had asked to defend from Piastri, he did not have the pace to keep the McLaren behind. So that means that Piastri has now got into 10th place.
Piastri made that look very, very easy, didn't he? Which will be frustrating to the Red Bull team, having given that instruction, or at least that request to Tsunoda. There was literally nothing he could do, highlighting the pace differential between Piastri and a McLaren, and Tsunoda in a heavily rebuilt Red Bull, driving that, of course, for the first time. Brand new chassis, brand new power unit, so many new components, the whole thing taken apart and rebuilt overnight after an enormous crash yesterday.
So Piastri, of course, is the leader of those that have made a pit stop, but that is also Charles Leclerc, who is effectively 2nd of those that have made a pit stop. So he has moved up well. It will be different, of course, when the others make their stops. So Charles Leclerc is currently 12th, but potentially in a good position, because George Russell is behind him. Remember, George was 3rd on the grid and actually did a good opening lap. Sainz is behind him, 14th. Alonso is 15th. Stroll 16th. Then it's Gasly, Lawson. Bortoletti and Ocon at the back, who made a very early stop, but it hasn't seemed to have worked much for Ocon. Meanwhile, Piastri is on the move. He's going past Ollie Behrman now, and that's another place gain. So Oscar Piastri up into 9th position as he continues to chase, particularly after the race leaders Max Verstappen and his teammate Lando Norris.
Yeah, so the gap between Verstappen and Norris remaining relatively stable, but actually it was Verstappen who put in a better lap time last time around. So there's still some pace on those medium tyres, particularly in the hands of Verstappen, just because he's been able to look after them a lot more than everyone else behind him. But it's starting to get to this tipping point where we're now seeing the hard tyres being freshly put on a lot of these cars, starting to go more and more quickly. Verstappen and then Norris, at some point in the next few laps, are going to have to be forced to start thinking about a pit stop, simply because the medium tyres won't last forever.
Well, the question we don't know the answer to at the moment, both of you, is this a one-stop or a two-stop? Verstappen looks to me like he's definitely going for a locked-in one-stop, but Piastri has stopped early enough to be thinking, is he possibly considering a two-stop? He's overtaking the cars through the sort of midfield back markers at the moment. They're in the top 10, ironically, because of the pit stop offset quite easily, but that doesn't mean that he would necessarily find it so easy to get past a quick car with a tyre offset. So we don't know what's going to happen, but that's definitely a consideration.
Piastri, as you say, making another move on Colapinto. Colapinto, nothing he can really do to defend, and sensibly he doesn't try and do anything silly there. So that's a good effort there, no doubt about it. But Piastri trying to move up the order as much as possible all the way.
And that's something that Verstappen will be keeping a very close eye on, because as he moves forward up the field, starts to close the gap down towards the... He's got massive pace at the moment, Piastri. If he starts to close the gap to Verstappen, Verstappen will have to seriously consider dropping back, making that pit stop, just so that he doesn't become a threat to Piastri. At the moment, he's got him well under control in this Grand Prix. He doesn't want to allow that to get too close.
The key for us is pre-air and going along.
Yeah, that is to Lando Norris, and that's absolutely right. He's doing a good job so far. 9 seconds behind Verstappen, but keeping the tyres going. Now, what we are also keeping an eye on is Charles Leclerc, who made that early pit stop and has done a good job by getting ahead of a bunch of others, but he's now trying to get past Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki Tsunoda running down in 11th place, having started from the pits. He has not made a pit stop, but he did start on the hard compound tyre. So now Charles Leclerc is coming up to the area of the circuit through the final double left-hander and out onto the start-finish straight where the one DRS zone activates, and this could be a chance for Charles Leclerc to gain another position. It's 11th place that he's chasing down right now. The DRS wing is open and he is already sliding past, and he's got the straight line speed, no problem at all. Charles Leclerc gets past Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, Tsunoda's definitely struggling. Here's Sainz.
Alex, 21.8, 21.8.
It's clearly a one-stop then. If Alex is there, it's 21.8.
And that's information to Carlos Sainz, who's made a stop, about his teammate Alex Albon, who has not made a stop. Still on the medium tyre, just giving him a lap time reference. And Carlos Sainz can immediately tell that he's still able to do a 21.8 on a medium tyre that's gone 21 laps into this Grand Prix, suggesting that there's no desperate threat at the moment from those medium tyres dropping away. That's good news for Alex Albon. It's good news for Lando Norris. It's great news for Max Verstappen.
It is. No, Verstappen's doing an excellent job, and he's got a very comfortable advantage at this stage. Still some 9 seconds ahead of Lando Norris in second, and with Alex Albon up into third. Listen to Hamilton.
Something have to cut these guys. There is no gap right now, and we are not ruling out plan C. Understood.
Well, there's a good discussion now going on with team as they explain what they know about the next stops they might be making, and they're just saying, right, just keep on with it at the moment. Hamilton is still behind Antonelli. He's been tucked in behind Kimi Antonelli for lap after lap since the beginning of this race.
And that's why the frustration's creeping in for Hamilton. He wants to go for an undercut, stopping ahead of Antonelli to try and find his way past. The team telling him if he does stop, he'll come out right in the middle of traffic and it will cost his overall race time. That's why they can't make that as an option work at this point in time.
So we shall see how that develops, but at the moment Oscar Piastri has managed to get himself up into 7th place now, ahead of Hülkenberg. So funnily enough, the next driver he will be chasing is Lewis Hamilton. There is a gap between them though, 5-second gap, so it'll take several laps for that to be closed up, but Piastri will catch up to Hamilton and Antonelli in a few laps time. We are on lap 23 out of 63 right now, so about 1/3, just over 1/3 distance. Listen to Russell.
It's like the rear track road or something. Just a rear movement, even a straight line.
Do you know what? George Russell, when he pulled up onto the grid, asked his team to check the tyres, to check his car, and the team just referred back to him and said, look, it might just be dust, it might just be that you're suffering with grip on the way to the grid. Maybe there's something more. If George Russell's feeling the rears moving around like that, they know the car's better than anything else. They'll tune into any tiny difference, that he might feel. But a track rod broken, if that were to be the case, that's serious.
It would be, wouldn't it? Because it would really be changing it. Colapinto's come into the pits right now for his pit stop. But meanwhile, Charles Leclerc is trying to make a move on Ollie Behrman and has made it, has he? Yes, just down the inside there. So that brings Charles Leclerc up into 9th. Remember, he is the second of those that have made their pit stop. Piastri, the first of those to have already done their pit stop. So Piastri currently running 7th, Charles Leclerc in 9th now.
And Piastri's now stuck up behind Lewis Hamilton. He has got around about 4 seconds, but he's had to pass so many cars. I think he's actually losing time between him and the leaders of this race. If we think about Piastri as being the de facto second place, he's in a fight with Max Verstappen. The overall gap, there's a bunch of cars in between them, but the overall gap is what matters. And because Piastri has had to fight his way through traffic, he's not made the progress that he would have hoped. This is exactly what Verstappen and Norris will be looking at. That's why they don't want to drop back at the moment. They want to stay in the clear air, make use of the clear track in front of them, keep the lap times, which at the moment are still pretty good. They've got a Verstappen with a 9-second gap over Norris, and then even further back. So at the moment, Verstappen and Norris want to stay out as long as they possibly can to avoid coming up against the same pitfalls as Piastri.
Piastri's just done a good lap, a 1:20.7. That's his personal best lap so far. It's not the outright fastest lap of the race yet, but we shall see how it works out. Max Verstappen is the race leader. Lando Norris running in second place, but it is a 9-second gap. Neither of them have made pit stops for new tyres, nor has Albon in third and Hadjar in fourth. But the leader of those that have made a pit stop, Oscar Piastri, and Charles Leclerc not too far behind him. We've got different strategies going on. This could end the race in different ways, but Verstappen's in very good form. So Verstappen's keeping that gap. How many more laps will he be able to do? Because we did say when we were talking to teams and getting a bit of an idea from Pirelli about the strategy, we thought that lap 24, lap 25 was about as far as you could go on the medium. That's where we're at now.
Yeah, although it does change dramatically when you're in the lead of the Grand Prix and able to look after those tyres. So you can nurse them for a considerable amount longer in the position that those two are in. Verstappen's got clean air, of course, he's leading the Grand Prix. Norris also actually has clean air because of the 9-second gap between Verstappen and himself. So actually they're both in pretty good shape right now. Norris took a little bit of life out of his tyres fighting to get past George Russell at the beginning of the Grand Prix, but actually they seem to have got those back under control. He's still putting in good lap times, and the gap between him and Verstappen not really changing that much.
So this is proving to be an interesting race. Lewis Hamilton still chasing down Kimi Antonelli, getting a bit closer again, but still can't find a way. Different strategy effectively going on here, Andrew, in that Piastri made that earlier pit stop. Yes, he was running second after not getting the first lap quite right. Max getting past him. How do you think it's going for Piastri now?
Well, at the moment he's heading for second place. Verstappen is comfortably in the lead, so he's got a 9-second lead over Norris. But more importantly, he's 30-something seconds ahead of Piastri. And so if he stops now, it's a 24, let me get this right, it's 26 to 27 seconds for a pit stop. So he's still got margin to stop and get out in the lead. And then, of course, he'll have fresher tyres than Piastri and he'll pull away. So really, this is a fight between Piastri and Norris for who's going to finish second out of the McLaren drivers, with Leclerc a potential factor depending on how that goes. At the moment, Piastri, now he's got some clear air, is beginning to haul back onto Norris, and the gap, Norris does not have a gap to pit and get out ahead of Piastri. So it looks like Piastri's going to win that fight, but it looks like this is Verstappen's race, his first win, second win of the season, his first win since Japan.
Yeah, and Imola, he keeps winning. It would be his fourth win in a row here, which would be amazing. But let's wait and see. We're not even half distance yet, so we shall see how this works out. We're actually listening on board Oscar Piastri at the moment as he's about to gain another place. Is he on Lewis Hamilton? He goes round the outside of Hamilton, yes. And that's a clean move. No problem at all. And now he's going to try and get past past Antonelli, who Hamilton's been attacking since the start of this race, hasn't found a way past. But of course, remember, Piastri's on fresher, hard, compound tyres that are working well for him.
Yeah, he is. And I'm just trying to fast forward a little bit towards the later stages of this Grand Prix, because Lando Norris and Max Verstappen are going to be on much fresher tyres when they do finally make their pit stop than Piastri. And if they end up close on track, which we expect that will happen towards the end of the race, if we see an offset like we've just seen between Hamilton and Piastri's making his way through the field with ease, really, because of the offset between those tyres. Yes, he's got a very fast car, and McLaren is helping with a lot of that pace, but the tyre offset also seems to be helping them quite considerably. So is that going to work in the favour of Lando Norris in that battle between Piastri and Norris? At the moment, it feels we'll wait and see, and I may well regret to say this, but it feels like almost a questionable decision to bring Piastri in so early from what was actually a pretty good grid slot, or a pretty good position on the racetrack, tucked up behind Verstappen.
Yeah, well, we shall see afterwards. It's always hard to know. So Oscar Piastri is now going to have a go at getting past Kimi Antonelli as he comes down the start-finish straight and heads down towards Variante Tamburello, which is where the DRS operates, and it's easy again, actually. The DRS zone works well, doesn't it?
I mean, we talk about this place being difficult to overtake, not in the hands of Piastri. Such is the offset. That car's so quick in the hands of Piastri right now, particularly on race day, where they're able to really look after the tyres and maintain that performance. He is sailing through the field, isn't he?
I tell you what, Charles Leclerc's just done another good job as well. He's just gained another place, got past Hulkenberg. Listen to Albon.
Guys, come on, let's not be stupid.
You're doing a great job. You're pulling away from Hadjar and Alonso.
Now, Alex Albon, I think he's almost worried. Why am I doing so many laps on the medium compound tyre without coming in? Because we're now on lap 27, and yet Albon is in third place. It is working. It's working better than people expected. We're just having a little look at how Oscar Piastri made his move on Kimi Antonelli. That was all very straightforward, and the Australian fans are loving the way that he's moving back up the order. But it is going to be tough for him to win this race, after all, as you say, because of Verstappen's advantage right now is looking very good for Max Verstappen and for Red Bull. So the order: Verstappen, Norris, Albon and Hadjar, and then it's Piastri who made the pit stop early. Antonelli is in 6th place, Hamilton 7th, Charles Leclerc in 8th place. He'll be closing up on his teammate soon. 9th place for Nico Hulkenberg, 10th place for Ollie Behrman.
And look at this, Piastri going again on Hadjar. This time he goes to the inside into that first chicane. Nice and easy does it, sails past the Racing Bulls, and that is Piastri now up to P4. Albon's ahead of him. We've already heard him questioning the strategy that he's on, still on the medium tyre that he started the Grand Prix. He's about 7 seconds down the road from Piastri, but it won't take long with the pace of that McLaren to close right the way back up to the Williams. And once he gets past Albon, it's Piastri, then Norris, and then Verstappen.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be fascinating. But the next laps from Piastri are absolutely crucial in that he's got a bit more clear space, and he's got to make this work if he's going to have any chance of going for Max Verstappen, which I think will be tough. We've got, right, it looks as though Lando Norris is going to be coming in. So the 2nd place car right now, 9 seconds behind the race leader Max Verstappen. Lando Norris will be coming in and going onto the hard tyres. He is into the pits now, and of course these tyres will be fresh throughout. He'll be putting in some very quick laps.
Yeah, he will. Let's watch the pit stop. Nice and smooth for Norris. That was a very good stop for McLaren. I think that's going to be quick. Let's get a time as it pops up on the screen for you. But it felt quick, 2.1 seconds, much better than the one that they serviced Piastri earlier on in the race. That's incredibly fast for him, exactly what he needed to get back out in front. So he's now made his pit stop. That leaves Verstappen and then Albon on the racetrack as first to second, yet to make a stop. We've got yellow flags.
Yeah, we've got a yellow flag, and just notice that Piastri is now ahead of Norris again. And Ocon has stopped, apparently. So, yeah, he's come to a halt.
Ooh, and this is falling right into the hands of Max Verstappen and Alex Albon, because that could easily bring out a safety car. The car is stuck on the side of the road. It's on the grass. It's not next to one of the Marshall's exits, and we've got a virtual safety car. You are going to see Verstappen and Albon jump into the pits immediately, taking about half the length of time that it's just taken Lando Norris to change his tyres. That has worked beautifully for Verstappen, but also for Alex Albon.
And it's all going wrong for McLaren here, because if they had just waited one more lap for Norris. So, yeah, into the pits comes the race leader, Max Verstappen, and it's about a 9 or 10 second advantage to be able to make your pit stop under safety car or virtual safety car. And we'll just watch his pit stop here. Let's have a look. Hamilton also will gain out of this because he's about to come into the pits, having started on the hard compound tyre. So this is going to change the order again, but it won't change the race leader because Max Verstappen's taken even more advantage here.
Yeah, and what he's done here is not only save time in the pit stop, he will come out of the pits in really great shape on fresh, hard compound tyres, still in the lead of the Grand Prix. Not something he expected to be able to do under normal racing conditions. The reason it's an advantage is the whole field, here's Leclerc quickly.
Unbelievable.
Well, it's the way it goes.
Unbelievable. All the time. I get with this virtual safety car.
Charles Leclerc not very happy. Right, now we've got a few more coming into the pits. Hamilton into the pits, Leclerc back in fact. Albon making his pit stop. It'll be interesting to see where he comes back out because the crew is going past down the start-finish straight. Antonelli has come in, Hamilton. Or he gets going eventually. That didn't look as though it was particularly rapid, and he is behind Antonelli again, isn't he?
It's busy in the pit lane. The reason that worked so beautifully for Verstappen is that when he made his stop, and he was the first to do so under the virtual safety car, everyone else is still on track, but going half the speed. They're going much, much slower than they would have been under full racing conditions. That's why he loses less time by coming into the pits to make his tyre change compared to everyone else around him, and that is why he's emerged still in the lead of this race, about 19 seconds, by the way, ahead of Oscar Piastri.
So after that little range of pit stops, you've got Verstappen leading, Piastri second, Norris third. Albon has come back out in fourth position ahead of Hadjar, Antonelli, Hamilton, Alonso and Stroll. They've kind of dropped out, because not dropped out, but they've dropped some places because of this safety car, virtual safety car period. And in 10th place, Charles Leclerc, who's gone for that second stop.
So Alonso didn't pit, but Sainz did out of that battle. So Alonso and Sainz were effectively, before the safety car happened, battling for that place behind Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, the sort of the best of the rest place, if you like. So Alonso's now out on old tyres in the Aston Martin, Sainz in on new tyres in the Williams, but has some places to make up. Meanwhile, Alonso's now behind Hamilton, having stopped, the Ferrari having stopped, so and Albon and Hadjar. So it's not really worked for him. He's throwing the dice, Aston Martin throwing the dice on those old tyres. Here's Piastri coming in, by the way.
Interesting.
Well, that's very interesting, because in second place he's 5 seconds ahead of his teammate Lando Norris, but he did stop relatively early, at least compared to his teammates. Another slow stop for McLaren. It is under virtual safety car, so losing less time, but another 3.3 second stop. He's now onto some fresh hard tyres, but he's going to come out at least behind the Williams of Albon, isn't he?
Yeah, and Norris has already gone through.
Yeah.
So he's, as you say, he's gone behind his teammate. He's got behind Alex Albon. Albon's potentially on for a podium finish here, but of course Piastri will be quick. Once he's back out, he's out in fourth position. My goodness, this is going to make for a really interesting second half of the race. The green flags are back out. We're back to racing once again, and immediately Charles Leclerc is on the attack of Lance Stroll. He's having a little look down towards the first chicane, but Stroll's got the defensive position and he holds on to it for now. Stroll in 9th, Leclerc in 10th. As the race gets back underway, Max Verstappen in a lead of 21 seconds, hugely, because it was virtual safety car rather than full safety car. They do not all have to close up as a group, and that has meant that Verstappen has a massive lead right now. It's going to be very hard for anyone to beat him.
So some will say Verstappen got very lucky with that virtual safety car, and there's a great argument to say of course he did, but you can also say Red Bull played that beautifully. They got into the control of this race, they got into the lead right at turn 1, right at the very beginning of the race. That allowed them to stay out as long as they possibly wanted to. They had total control in free air of doing whatever they wanted. They know there's a high risk of safety cars. We've seen crashes, red flags and yellow flags all weekend long, and they knew that that was a possibility. They left Max out as long as possible, and they took advantage of it. Well played, Red Bull.
Yeah, well played, George Russell, who nearly crashed into the back of another car coming into the pits, because there's a bunch of them that came in, and we saw a replay. He locked up the fronts, but thankfully I don't think he actually made contact with the car up ahead of him. But the race is now fully back underway once again. When Hamilton came out, he only just missed getting in front of Kimi Antonelli. but Hadjar actually did a good job. He got out in front of both of them. So Isaac Hadjar is in a very good position, although he's under massive pressure now from Kimi Antonelli. So we're talking about the battle for 5th place. Two of the rookie stars of the series this year. Hadjar's been consistently impressive with the Racing Bulls team. Kimi Antonelli hasn't always had a brilliant qualifying, especially at this weekend, although he has done some great qualifying. Of course, he did a fantastic job in Miami in the sprint race. But let's see whether he's going to be able to find a way past Isaac Hadjar as we go through into this second half of the race.
Yeah, and one of the unanswered questions, although we've got a hint of an answer towards it, is how long are those hard tyres that some people stop very early to go onto? Are they going to see some sort of drop-off? The fact that Oscar Piastri made another pit stop to put another fresh set on, even though he was sitting in P2 in this Grand Prix, suggests that at least in the hands of Piastri on that McLaren, the tyres were falling off a cliff. Otherwise, there's no way you drop out of second place with your teammate behind you, with a run to the flag still to play out in this Grand Prix. So the hard tyres, all the overtaking that Piastri had to do, those hard tyres not hanging on perhaps quite as long as some people thought.
Verstappen set the fastest lap a moment ago, but now Norris. So the order on lap 33 is Max Verstappen with a very comfortable advantage over Lando Norris in second place. Alex Albon in third place, having started in 7th on the grid. George Russell, meanwhile, we're just listening on board with George Russell as he's on the attack of Hulkenberg, makes a move down the inside, relatively straightforward. So that's put Russell up into 11th. But just continuing down that top order, from Albon 3rd, it's Piastri in 4th, Isaac Hadjar in 5th, from Kimi Antonelli in 6th, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, they both started outside the top 10. They are now in 7th and 8th positions, but Leclerc, having made a second stop, it's going to be very interesting to see on very fresh tyres what he can do. But he gained more early in the race with strategy than he has now with the virtual safety car we saw. He's down in 8th, Alonso in 9th, Stroll is in 10th, and George Russell, who of course started in 3rd and looked very competitive early on, well, he's down in 11th place now because of the way the strategies have gone. And we're just watching Carlos Sainz making a move. Yep, he has gained the position on Yuki Tsunoda. Oh my goodness, was there contact?
There was contact.
Again, this guy touched me like in Bahrain.
Got away with it, I think, didn't they?
Well, it was high speed. It was going through the first chicane. It was wheel to front wing end plate, which is not the best way to make contact. Those tyres, the sidewalls of those tyres, not particularly strong. It was the Williams of Carlos Sainz that had the contact with the tyre, with the front wing of Tsunoda, but he seems to have got away with it so far.
Lewis Hamilton has finally made the move on Kimi Antonelli after racing each other lap after lap, but now they're both on different tyres. They're both on the medium compound. Suddenly the Ferrari's looking better on the medium compound than the Mercedes, and he was able to take the run down in towards the first chicane, and he's gained it. And George Russell now in his Mercedes is also just trying to find a little bit more pace. He's on the hard compound tyre. He's attacking Lance Stroll.
That's a move that took 34 laps to play out. Lewis Hamilton chasing his old Mercedes car underneath the rear wing for most of this Grand Prix. You're right, they swapped onto the medium tyre, having started on the hard. The Ferrari looks like it's a little bit more racy on that particular tyre, but can it get to the end of the Grand Prix? Still in good shape. If we're seeing the hard tyre drop away fighting through the field, even on a McLaren, is that medium tyre going to last to the end? It will, but will it do it with pace?
Fascinating to see how this is all going to work out. I think in terms of the race win, that does look fairly well set. But as Max Verstappen has got this nearly 20-second advantage over Lando Norris, but with Albon currently in 3rd place, potential podium for the Williams driver, but he's got Piastri chasing him, and Piastri's now, he's just set fastest lap, but now it's Hamilton. Hamilton's got even quicker, and he's about to attack Isaac Hadjar for 5th place. So for Hamilton on these medium compounds, he suddenly seems to be feeling a Ferrari that he's enjoying again.
Which is exactly what we saw in, I think it was Miami, where the car came alive on the medium tyre, didn't work quite so well on the hard tyre. So that's a feature of that Ferrari, particularly in conditions like this. It looks more and more, I said it earlier on, and it's easy to say with hindsight, but I did bring this up earlier, I think it's a questionable move to pit Piastri so early in this Grand Prix. The fact that he's now had to make a second pit stop and drop out of second position kind of confirms that. And the reason it was questionable, not because he didn't have the pace, but he had to fight his way through a very busy midfield, taking life out the tyre, costing him time all the way through. He made the overtakes and he made them work, but all of that takes life out of a tyre. So when he found himself in a virtual safety car position with his teammate just 5 seconds behind on fresh tyres, He can feel the pressure coming from Lando Norris. Didn't want to sit there as a sitting duck when thinking his teammate would fight his way by, and he's made a pit stop, but he's now out of those podium positions. I'm sure he'll find his way past Alex Albon at some stage, but is he going to get past Lando Norris, or has that move just handed the intra-team McLaren battle to Lando himself?
Very interesting. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton is closing up on Isaac Hadjar and getting very close at the key area where the main overtaking area is in the DRS zone. He moves to the outside and yet sweeps past Isaac Hadjar. Lewis Hamilton is up into 5th place. He started down in 12th place, and the Ferrari fans at Imola are finally getting something to get excited about, because after qualifying it was bitter disappointment for them to see both Ferraris outside the top 10. But Hamilton in 5th place, Piastri's in 4th. Both of them are now trying to close down on Alex Albon. Who's going to be able to get that final podium? That's going to be the biggest question, I think.
Yeah, and the other advantage Hamilton has, of course, on that medium tyre for this particular stint of the Grand Prix is the car's getting lighter and lighter and lighter as the race goes on, burning off the fuel. It had 110 kilos at the beginning of this race, so everyone starting on the medium tyre had very heavy cars with which to balance around a racetrack aggressively, fighting for position at the start of the race, taking life out of those tyres. Now the race has settled down a little bit, the cars are getting lighter, the gaps are opening up. This is now working out quite well for Lewis Hamilton. His car's come alive and he's got a much lighter car to be able to manage around this racetrack.
We're on lap 37 out of 63, and all but one car still running. Esteban Ocon's car pulled over with a mechanical problem. George Russell has been gaining some more places, and he got past Lance Stroll. He's now got past Fernando Alonso as well, so he is gaining some places. He's into 9th position, and his Mercedes is working okay, but it's only 9th. He needs to keep moving up the order. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc is now trying to make a move on Kimi Antonelli for what is 7th place, and it does look to me as though Antonelli is struggling a bit more on this medium compound tyre than he was on the hard tyre early on when he was defending very easily from Lewis Hamilton.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Here is Hamilton.
P5 on the road, awesome. Yeah, to use a lot of tyres to get through those two.
Yeah, interesting point from Hamilton. What he's basically saying, I had to use all the tyres, is I had to work the tyres very hard, so I'm a little bit cautious if they will last the rest of the race, but we shall see.
Yeah, as I said, the car getting lighter and lighter, which just alleviates a little bit of that pressure. But it is interesting, isn't it, to see the different car manufacturers between Ferrari and Mercedes seemingly working so much differently on the different compounds of tyre. Ferrari seeming to come alive on the medium compound, the Mercedes really struggling on the same tyre.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Kimi Antonelli is certainly defending himself from Charles Leclerc as they're coming into the latter part of the lap now, and this is an area where Charles Leclerc will pick up the DRS zone in just a moment as they come out of the final corner at Rivazza. He accelerates hard, gets into the DRS zone, this main opportunity heading down towards Variante Tamburello, and he's going to have the move again on the outside. He is fast around the outside with the DRS. It works well for him. Charles Leclerc is now up into 7th place.
Yeah, good clean move. So that's the Ferraris, both Ferraris past the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli now, moving forward. Hamilton in P5, Leclerc now into P7. Piastri, though, closing down ever more on the back of Alex Albon. Just over a second between those two. Piastri's going to pick up the DRS in the next couple of laps, and Alex Albon will come under some severe pressure from a papaya McLaren very shortly.
Interesting to see that Nico Hülkenberg on a medium compound, because he started on the hard tyre, was right down towards the back of the grid. He's actually chasing down Fernando Alonso to get into the points now. He's only half a second behind Fernando Alonso on the medium, and this medium tyre is being very effective for several of the teams and drivers out there right now. It is a benefit. And what's really fascinating to me in this race, Mark, is that we thought there wouldn't be much overtaking. Actually, because strategies ended up different, we've seen a lot of overtaking.
It's a pleasant surprise, isn't it? Yeah, we also thought it was going to be an absolute slam dunk one-stop race, but of course the virtual safety car has given a number of people, the opportunity to make a second stop. We've now got different cars on different tyres racing towards the flag, different levels of performance. Is the medium tyre on the likes of Hamilton, who's going very quickly right now, is that going to last all the way with that pace right to the end? These are questions we still don't know the answers to, but if you're Hadjar, if you're Leclerc, they're on hard tyres, not very far behind Hamilton. If that medium tyre drops away, those guys will come into an opportunity.
A lot Alonso's been passed by Nico Hülkenberg, and in the meantime Piastri is now right with Alex Albon in the battle for third place. So it could well be a podium change potentially, and for Piastri to then try and chase after his teammate, but the gap between himself and his teammate is over 12 seconds, nearly 13 seconds. So for Piastri, getting on the podium will be the first thing, but whether he can actually get anywhere closer to Verstappen and Norris up front is another question. We're just looking at a replay ourselves at the moment of Yuki Tsunoda, and Yuki has just gained another place. I think he's found a way, yes, past Lance Stroll, and Yuki, who started from the pit lane and is now on the medium tyres, he's taking advantage of those mediums.
Yeah, starting to come alive again. There is a note from race control to say that Alex Albon has been noted for a potential yellow flag infringement as he gets passed finally by Oscar Piastri. So down into fourth position for Albon, and that is now going, no further investigation for Albon, so from the race steward. So he's clear at least of that one, but he has been overtaken by the McLaren of Piastri.
So Piastri, the man who took pole position, who is now up into third place, having made a two-stop race of this, whereas all of the front runners, pretty much all the front runners, have been on a one-stop and on a slightly different strategy, because he made the very early pit stop when he was running second to Max Verstappen. Well, he is up into third now, and it's a question of whether he can get that extra performance out of his hard tyres, but I rather doubt it's going to be easy, because Norris and Verstappen are on hard tyres and they made pretty late pit stops anyway.
Well, that's exactly right. There's no tyre offset now because of that late and second pit stop for Piastri. Although there's a gap now back to his teammate, or ahead to his teammate. It's about 6 seconds between Piastri and Norris. 13 seconds between Piastri and Norris, but they are now on the same tyre and pretty much the same life of tyre as well. So there's not some massive offset between the two for Piastri to be able to close up that gap.
Charles Leclerc, meanwhile, is running in 7th place, and he is catching Isaac Hadjar. There's a chance for Leclerc to gain another position and then effectively be behind his teammate, Lewis Hamilton. So Lewis Hamilton is in 5th at the moment, Leclerc in 7th place. And let's not forget Alex Albon, although he's dropped out of 3rd, he's still in what could be his best result of the year. He's running in 4th place at this stage, but he will potentially be coming under a bit more attack. Charles Leclerc, in the meantime, has found a way past Hadjar. So Hamilton in 5th, Leclerc now up into 6th place, Hadjar in 7th. But that's still a good effort from Isaac Hadjar. If he can hang on in there, there'll be some very useful points for the Racing Bulls team. Behind Hadjar, Antonelli is still in 8th place, but George Russell, his teammate's not far behind. And Yuki Tsunoda, who's out of the points, he is still showing some good pace. He's actually putting pressure on Fernando Alonso. It's looking as though this is a tougher race after all for Aston Martin. Good qualifying, but the race hasn't worked out well for them.
Yeah, they've made a mistake by not stopping under the safety car for fresh tyres, but they probably didn't do that because they were in a difficult spot on tyres anyway. So they did a tyre strategy that allowed them to use medium tyres for each one of their second runs in the 3 parts of qualifying, or certainly the second and third parts of qualifying. But that's meant that they've got less tyres available of medium and hard compound for the race. So although they do have an extra set of mediums which were only lightly used, which they almost certainly in hindsight should have pitted to pit, they probably haven't done it because they used tyres. Yes, they've kind of effectively thrown away those great grid positions because they're both going to finish out of the points now.
Yeah, well, you certainly couldn't have predicted how this race was going to go, particularly with the virtual safety car, but it's always a compromise. Some teams didn't use those tyres on purpose, knowing that different things can happen here.
Yeah, exactly. And just to throw in a little bit of interest up front, Verstappen now closing up behind the back of the pack, and there's a huge gaggle of cars that he's got to make his way through. They will all, of course, get the blue flags and be obliged to move out of the way, but that's a sort of a barricade or a hurdle that he's got to overcome, and it's literally everyone from Alonso, Hülkenberg and Alonso back. Verstappen is very close to finding his way through the whole bunch of them. It could cost him time. Meanwhile, Lando Norris has an enormous gap in front of him, around 18 seconds is a gap back from Verstappen, so he could potentially start to use this opportunity to make some of that ground up. There is still a long way to go in this race.
Yuki Tsunoda managed to get past Fernando Alonso, but Alonso is actually still very much with him, so we'll see if that changes at all. But at this stage, Yuki Tsunoda up into 12th, Alonso down to 13th position. So Verstappen is a very comfortable race leader here at Imola at the moment, with the two McLarens running second and third, but there are big gaps between all of them. 18 seconds between Verstappen and Norris, 14 seconds between Norris and Piastri. Then a shorter gap to Albon in 4th place, who's doing a great job, as I say, potentially on for his best performance of the year. Listen to Alonso.
It's gonna be a torture. It's like the luckiest driver in the world.
Oh, Alonso's unluckiest driver in the world. He's down in 13th position, and it just hasn't worked out for him at all. And it's a great shame, because he did a good job in qualifying, and we did think that Aston Martin were going to be able to score. He hasn't scored any points at all this year yet.
I know, and I mean, it's funny that Leclerc thought he was the unluckiest driver in the world a few laps ago, didn't he? But sometimes these things work for you, sometimes they work against you. It was a strategy, as Andrew said, that worked very well for them in the early part of the weekend, giving that great grid position. It just the chips just haven't fallen their way as the Alpine drivers get the call from their own pit wall to swap positions. So that is Gasly having to Colapinto having to allow Gasly through, which he's done.
Yeah, he has done. But right now, Gasly, who was in the points at the start of this race, starting in 10th place, he's down in 15th, and it's not looking particularly promising. We'll see how quickly can he catch the Astons.
Thanks for that.
Thanking the team for Colapinto allowing him through. Remember, though, it was an error by Pierre Gasly early in this race when he was dicing with Charles Leclerc, but he ran wide, Pierre Gasly, into the gravel. That lost him a bunch of places, and that really effectively cost him the opportunity. We're just taking a little look back at, I think, probably the moment that Colapinto, his teammate, did back off a little bit just down the main start-finish straight to allow Pierre Gasly plenty of space. Yeah, that's what he did. Just ease. That's a good place to ease off. You don't actually lose too much lap time by doing that.
Yeah, and they will know that, and hence the sort of strategic move on their part. Not a great day then for Alpine, not a great day for the two Mercedes. George Russell dropping way back now behind his teammate, but I think you can class this as a pretty decent day for the two Ferraris, given where they started. 11th and 12th on the grid, currently in 5th and 6th on the racetrack. I suspect we're going to get a situation like we had in Miami last week, where the two drivers at Ferrari on different tyre compounds, the team will have to make a decision whether they can easily swap those cars around, because Leclerc only 1.5 seconds and going more quickly than Hamilton in front.
Yeah, and there is a chance that they could catch Albon for that 4th place. But yeah, what do the team do? Do they say, right, Leclerc, you go through because you've got more chance of catching Albon? Or Hamilton, who's still doing decent laps on his medium, but as we heard from him on the radio earlier, he's a little concerned that those mediums may not last the full race distance with the grip that he needs.
Yeah, exactly right. And it was a bone of contention last time out in Miami, where they took a couple of laps to make that decision. We saw some sarcastic comments back on the radio from Lewis Hamilton to the team about not deciding things quickly enough. I think they're going to learn from that. They're going to have to make a decision. They'll do it quickly. They'll do it at the right moment, I'm sure, for the greater good of Ferrari, the team here.
Absolutely right. So we shall see how that goes. It's going to be interesting to see. That last lap, Hamilton did a 1:20.0, Leclerc a 1:19.8. So he is definitely going that little bit quicker. And I think by the end of this lap, he will actually be in the DRS zone. So will the team ask Hamilton to move out of his way or not? We shall wait and see on that. At this moment, it's still Alex Albon who's up ahead of them by some 6, nearly 7 seconds, holding on to 4th place. But each point matters, and it's important for Ferrari to find the best way to chase Albon.
And it's a real sign that the Williams is making great progress. Oh, it's a Mercedes going slowly. Antonelli pulling onto the side of the track.
I got an issue. Okay, copy.
So it looks like a mechanical problem. There's no damage to the car, but he's pulled off, a little bit like we saw Ocon earlier. Same place,
it's going to be another virtual safety car, almost certainly.
My goodness.
The car's ground to a halt. It's stopped on the grass by the side of the track. We've got yellow flags at the moment. Everybody getting ready for pit stops. Ferrari out in the pit lane. Are we going to get the VSC? Let's wait and see.
Yeah, are we going to get safety car virtual? Well, surely we're going to get at least virtual safety car, because they're going to have to pick this car up, as it was with Esteban Ocon in the same place. Ferrari were looking to get ready for a pit stop, but they haven't. It's safety car, not virtual safety car. Now, this is really interesting, because this will actually put the whole grid back together. The whole line of cars will have to bunch up together before we get a restart.
What a strange decision. That's almost an identical scenario to the one we saw earlier on. That was a virtual safety car. This is now a full safety car, which is going to close up that enormous gap between Verstappen and Norris. I really cannot get my head around why that is.
This is why the teams get so frustrated with the FIA and race officials. It's exactly the same situation as Ocon. He stopped in the same place, on the same hill, on the same piece of grass, and yet the first incident was a VSC and the second incident is a safety car. There will be lots of questions about that after the race.
And it's a busy pit lane as well. Max Verstappen now comes in for a change of tyres onto a fresh set of hard compound tyres, but of course everybody is going to be close when this race gets underway again.
Yeah, so Verstappen in, Lando Norris not in. There was an 18-second gap, which I think is going to mean Lando Norris does now pit. Okay, so Verstappen...
They're all going to have to pit, Mark, for sure.
Yeah, Verstappen and Norris, the first ones to come round. They will take fresh tyres now. There we go. So Norris in as well. Oh, another slow pit stop from McLaren.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
We need to stay out. We don't have a tyre that can do to the end.
Oh, that's interesting.
Soft will be better than that.
It's 17 laps, Charles. 17 laps to the end.
Piastri not stopping.
Medium has 11 laps.
Piastri not stopping, so going through and overtaking his teammate. That late stop for Piastri with 15 laps to go. Piastri choosing not to stop, Albon choosing not to stop. Norris has swapped from now P2 on the road down to P3.
Lewis Hamilton's come in. He's put a new set of hard compound tyres on because they've left Leclerc out there. That, in a way, that sort of solved their problem for Ferrari, hasn't it, as in terms of team strategy, because they've said, well, you can't change, so we'll leave you out. Hamilton can change and put on fresh tyres.
Except that, as we've seen many, I mean, I could be wrong about this, right, but we've seen many times in this situation, if the driver in front on old tyres has something like a 10-lap offset on his tyres, he's completely defenceless. Like we saw, Alonso was unable to keep the Sauber back, even though the Sauber is a much slower car than the Aston Martin, or at least it has been this weekend, maybe not for the earlier part of the season, but certainly this weekend. You just can't keep them back if they've got fresh tyres. So, which is why Leclerc, we heard those radio messages earlier, he was so desperate to come in. Any tyre has got to be better than this. He's thinking, because he knows he's a sitting duck from now on.
Kimi Antonelli is out of his car and walking away. That's a great shame. And of course, he's got a lot of friends and family here at Imola this weekend. It's his home event. He's born and brought up in this part of Italy, and sadly he's out of this race. But so it hasn't been perfect, but he actually did a decent job in the race, and he'll be moving on to the next one, Monaco, of course, coming up next week.
Yeah, exactly right. So let's see how this is going to shape out. Verstappen's still in very good shape. He is in front, but the gap that he had, that really comfortable lead of nearly 20 seconds, has been eroded because of a decision by race control to not bring the virtual safety car out, which is exactly what we had for almost an identical incident earlier in the race. This time it's the full safety car, allowing all of the cars to close up behind each other, behind the safety car, losing the advantage that Verstappen had. Verstappen now on fresh tyres to go to the end of the race. Piastri behind him on 16-lap old hard tyres. Lando Norris now behind him, but on fresh hard tyres. This is going to be fascinating. Can Piastri hold back Norris, or is it going to be Verstappen versus Norris for the lead of this Grand Prix in a couple of laps' time?
We shall see. And Alex Albon has come into the pits as well, so Williams obviously feeling he needs fresh tyres to still be fully competitive when he comes out, and he comes back out.
He had a big enough gap. Yeah, he did. A big enough gap.
He's in 5th place. So Charles Leclerc is actually ahead of him in 4th place now, but we know Leclerc hasn't got fresh tyres on. So we shall see. Yeah, we will find out shortly as to whether that's going to work for him. Meanwhile, everybody is gathering together under the safety car, as you say, and we're going to have around 13 laps, I would think, for 13, 14 laps by the end when the safety car comes in. So there's plenty of racing still to come. And with Verstappen now having had such a helpful lead, we shall see how it all goes. It's fascinating. Well, it's all happening at the Grand Prix at Imola because it's a complete change. We've just had a full safety car period. Max Verstappen is still leading the race, but now he's going to have the McLarens of Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris right behind him once the safety car moves away. So the final stage of this race, some 12, 13 laps, it's going to be very exciting, but Max Verstappen has dominated the race so far. So we shall see how this all goes. We were just looking at the pit stop then, and how Lando Norris just about managed to get out ahead there.
Yeah, well, so what happened was Lando Norris came out of the pits alongside Alex Albon, who didn't make a pit stop at the same time. There's a safety car line by which you're not allowed to overtake. So Lando's coming out of the pits. He's allowed to go full pace until he reaches that safety car line, and he came out neck and neck with Albon. Albon actually backed off to let Lando Norris through, thinking that he may have overtaken. Of course, no overtaking in the safety car conditions, so that'll be a slight bone of contention. There was a couple of metres in it as to whether who had the right to that particular position. It'll be reviewed afterwards, I'm sure, but at the moment it's Lando who's taken that slot.
I have to say, I think it's a mistake for McLaren not to pit Piastri. He's got 18-lap old tyres, and I just can't see him holding back people. I mean, he does have Leclerc to help defend as well, but he's also on 19-lap old tyres. So actually you've got quite an interesting situation in the race order as it is at the moment. Verstappen new tyres, Piastri old tyres, Norris new tyres, Leclerc old tyres, Albon new tyres, Russell old tyres. It's literally alternating down the field, but all those people behind Piastri on the fresh tyres, so that's Norris, Albon and Hamilton particularly. He's going to be really vulnerable to them from now on. Yeah,
and I tell you what's going to be interesting, with Piastri having track position over Lando Norris, we know there are no set team orders within that team. They'll be allowed to race, but there's a championship at stake. There's no way Piastri wants to allow his teammate to get through unless the team want to come on and give some sort of team instruction to say, look, Lando's on a fresh set of tyres, let's let him out, go at Verstappen.
I'm looking to see if we can finish at the point, and I'm not being pessimistic. These tyres are going to be incredibly difficult to restart.
And there you are, listening to the story from Charles Leclerc about the tyres. Exactly what Andrew was just saying, what you're talking about, Mark, as well, is that these tyres, then when you're not on fresh tyres, you are going to be struggling, like Piastri, who is currently in second place. So do McLaren make this decision, as you say? Do they get Norris go? Because if they want to try and beat Verstappen in this race, the only way they're actually going to be able to do that is to say to Piastri, let Norris go, because then Norris can go for it.
That's the right decision. That is exactly what they have to do. They have to do it immediately after the safety car restart, because Lando Norris has a fast car. Here we go.
I see Oscar's tyres are pretty dead. If we want any chance of trying to go for the lead, then I guess we know what to do. And I'm not asking to let me by, I'm just saying let's not make it too hard for one another. If we fight, then we can go backwards.
I'm not asking to let me by, I'm just sort of suggesting it gently. Yeah.
But that's the conversation that we've been talking about, and it's totally understandable that Lando, you'd think he might, some drivers would be a bit more full on about let me pass, because I've got the fresh tyres, but he's being very calm about it.
It's going to be really frustrating for Oscar, because he was the guy with the best shot at taking on Verstappen in this Grand Prix after qualifying. Even at the start of the race, when Verstappen got past, he was tucked up right behind the Red Bull, but it's now, that opportunity now lies in the hand of Lando Norris, and if the team don't make that call very early on, they will cost themselves an opportunity at winning a Grand Prix, and there's a championship at stake here. They've got to make that call.
Well, it's going to be so interesting. We're still behind safety car at this point on lap 50 out of 63. Max Verstappen, the race leader. He had a massive lead in this race, but not any longer, because we're under safety car and the whole group is virtually together. There is one car between himself and Piastri at the moment. That is the Ollie Behrman Haas car, but it will bring everybody very, very close. The car that is being removed from the track now is that of Kimi Antonelli's. Unfortunately, that just came to a halt and Kimi had to step out of the car. We've had two retirements in this race, Kimi Antonelli and Esteban Ocon. The rest of the teams are still running, so we have 18 cars operating, with Verstappen leading from Piastri and Norris. Charles Leclerc currently in fourth, but on tyres that have done a lot of work already. Albon in fifth, Russell in sixth place for Mercedes, Hamilton in seventh on fresh tyres for Ferrari, then Sainz in eighth place for Williams, Hadjar is in ninth, and Nico Hülkenberg for Sauber in 10th place. Yuki Tsunoda is 11th, Pierre Gasly in 12th. Be interesting to see if Pierre can come back a bit after a little error early on in the race. He's down in 12th at this stage. Liam Lawson is 13th, Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll, they are well down the order in 14th and 15th places, and then it's Franco Colapinto 16th ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto and Oliver Behrman, who actually is up there in terms of behind the safety car with race leader Max Verstappen, but he's a lap down
He's in between the two McLarens, isn't he?
Yeah.
So occasionally we'll see race control ask him to sort of unlap himself and get himself out of the way, but it is down to the discretion of race control, so we'll see what happens there. If that's going to happen, we should expect that to happen any time now, as all these safety recovery vehicles are making their way off the track. Antonelli's car is now safely tucked away behind the barriers, so we'll see what happens, but things are going to get going again very, very soon here.
We could be in for a remarkable, fun last part of this Imola race. The Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, round 7 of the 2025 World Championship. And Piastri, who'd been going for yet another victory after a run of wins in recent races, is looking much less likely that he's going to get 4 in a row, I have to say. But it does look more likely that Max Verstappen is going to do 4 wins in a row at Imola. But he's got more of a battle than he had before the safety car came out, because he had such a huge advantage. He may now have to fight a bit, but we know he's got the advantage up front. And it's only really Lando Norris, who's currently in 3rd place on fresh tyres, who could be his major rival. And we're also going to wait to see whether Ferrari are going to score some points here today after qualifying so poorly yesterday in 11th and 12th places. Leclerc currently in 4th, Hamilton in 7th place. The Williams team potentially with both cars scoring points. Albon in 5th place, Sainz in 8th place. Racing Bulls have 1 car in the points with Isaac Hadjar in 9th, and Sauber currently with Nico Hulkenberg in 10th. Yet I think he may struggle a little bit once we get going with some cars behind a bit more rapid.
Yeah, this is going to be a fascinating last 11 laps of this Grand Prix. We don't always say that at Imola. It doesn't always produce the most exciting races, but this one's been absolutely enthralling from start to finish, and it's nowhere near yet done. There is a long way to go, 11 laps, and there is Oliver Behrman now unlapping himself, unpicking his way through the likes of Verstappen, out of the way of the two McLarens, past the safety car, and off he goes. And that means that probably at the end of this lap, we're going to get the safety car peeling in, and Max Verstappen will take control of the field again, but this time he's got two McLarens right underneath his rear wing.
I am fascinated to see what happens between the two McLarens at this restart, because Max Verstappen can just focus on the restart once the safety car moves. But what are the McLarens going to do? Are the team going to ask Piastri to move out of the way for Norris, or are they just going to say, you two race on? We will find out in just a short space of time. And then Leclerc is going to have the same problem with the likes of Albon, Russell, Hamilton behind him when he's struggling on tyres.
What it is going to do is give Verstappen a little bit of breathing space for the restart, isn't it? Because the two McLarens are going to have to sort themselves out in whatever fashion they do that. They're not going to be immediately attacking Verstappen when he takes control of this race, so it allows him a little bit of space to do whatever he wants at the beginning of this restart, take control of it, brake whenever he likes, go through the first couple of corners probably unchallenged, and allow himself just to build maybe a tiny little bit of a comfort zone. And
as we've seen all weekend, he's got good pace around this track. It's not like he's delivered just the one lap, because earlier on when he was leading this race, he was pulling away from the McLarens then too, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, but we know how good the McLarens are in race pace, don't we? They've got a Lando Norris on fresh tyres. I would not rule Lando Norris out. If he can get past Piastri quickly, I wouldn't rule him out for at least closing down the gap to Verstappen and putting him under pressure.
So the safety car's not actually coming in this lap. Okay, so we're going to have one more lap by the looks of things before we actually get the race back underway, and then we will be racing fully. Hadjar is the top rookie driver, by the way, in this order, currently in 9th position. Of course, we've lost one of them from the race in Kimi Antonelli, and further down the order we've got some of the other rookies, but we are looking forward to what this last part of the race is going to be and who are going to score final points. We have got the sign up now. The safety car will be ending at the end of this lap, and remember, you're not allowed to overtake anybody until you go across the start-finish line. So how McLaren play with this, whether they're going to ask Piastri to let Norris through, well, they can't do that until they actually get to the line and down into the first corner, or will they just say, you guys are racing, it's up to you? I don't know.
It's going to be a fascinating 9-lap sprint to the finish with a mix of tyre compounds, a mix of tyre lives, different performances up and down the top 10 racers. This could go any which way. The only man sitting at least vaguely comfortable right now is Max Verstappen. He has the lead of the race, but all of the hard work he did to build up that comfortable gap, 18 seconds he had over Lando Norris in P2, that has been wiped out with his safety car. It's now going to be a sprint to the end.
Yeah, absolutely right. It was such a big lead that Max had. He had such a dominant force in this race earlier on. But now there is a true battle on his hands. But he is a great racer. We know that Max Verstappen almost enjoys having to fight for a race victory, and he's going to have to do it this time. And it isn't easy for McLaren when they've got Oscar Piastri with more worn tyres in second place, Lando Norris with the fresh tyres in third, Charles Leclerc for Ferrari in fourth place. Sounds great, but he's on worn tyres that he is really worried about, that he's not going to have any grip in these remaining laps. The Verstappen now is controlling the pace. The safety car's headed off, and it's now totally up to Max Verstappen as to when he goes for it. He can go for it any time now. They're heading down the hill towards Rivazza. He's still taking it steady. He's not going for it yet. Into the first left-hand part. Will he go for it? Yes. Floor to accelerator full on, and he's through there very neatly, very quickly, and he's already pulling out 2, 3, 4 car lengths over Oscar Piastri. But it's Piastri with Norris right behind him that we're really going to be having a look at here as they head down towards the first chicane. Charles Leclerc has actually had a good restart, even though he's been complaining about his tyres. He's having a little look, decides against it, and stays in fourth place for the moment.
Yeah, Leclerc had such a good restart that it made it very difficult for McLaren to do anything about swapping their drivers that early, if indeed that is their intention. Lando can't afford to start mixing it with Oscar Piastri because he's under massive pressure from the Ferrari. They might need a lap or two just to build a gap, let things settle down, and then make that switch happen. But in the meantime, Max Verstappen runs away, already 1.1 seconds in front.
Absolutely, but there's a little move up the inside of Hamilton. They're nearly losing a place to Carlos Sainz, but Carlos just didn't quite make it work. And in fact, yeah, and also it was Albon, wasn't it, on Leclerc? So Albon and Leclerc having that battle. Sainz is behind Hamilton, so it was actually Albon almost getting past Leclerc. Leclerc, we did wonder whether he's going to be struggling, and he did just for a moment, but he's pulled away again. So Leclerc fourth, Albon fifth, Russell in sixth, under pressure from Hamilton, and then Carlos Sainz is playing the game as well.
Yeah, and Verstappen is doing exactly what he needs to do. Broken the DRS gap. DRS will be enabled at the end of this lap, but he's already 1.5 seconds clear of Oscar Piastri behind him. Piastri on 23 lap old hard tyres, as opposed to the 7 laps that are on Max Verstappen's car and the 9 laps that are on Lando Norris's car just behind Piastri. So it's Piastri, the sitting duck, you would imagine. Leclerc also on heavily worn tyres with Alex Albon behind him. There's such a mixture, such an offset of different pace in this top 10 cars. There's no way they're going to finish in this order.
No, that's right. It is going to change, but it is a relatively short race still to go. We're just having a look at Yuki Tsunoda here. He was battling with Nico Hülkenberg, and I think, did he make the move? Not quite there, but did Hülkenberg run wide on the exit? Yes, he did, and that was a chance for Yuki Tsunoda. So Tsunoda's now moved up into 10th place. So both of the Red Bulls are up there, but it is Max Verstappen, of course, who's in the top spot. He is leading, and he is definitely pulling away from both McLarens. No change, second and third. It's still Piastri in second, and Norris on the fresher tyres in third. Leclerc actually is not dropped back as much as I thought he would. He's only a second behind Norris.
Yeah, exactly right. So Verstappen doing a very good job, 2.2 the gap back to Piastri, but Norris, if he wants to stake a claim for having a helping hand to get past his teammate, he needs to get right underneath the rear wing of Oscar Piastri's McLaren in front of him. At the moment, just under a second back. He's going to pick up DRS. It opens the rear wing now, down that start-finish straight. He'll close up. This is the moment to do it if they're going to. Into the chicane. Can he get past Piastri? Not on this particular time around the circuit, but that surely is the place to do it if they're going to do it.
Bit of a hop over the curb as well for Piastri, but he dealt with that well. But you're right, he's definitely under pressure from Lando Norris now, and with the DRS now open, because it isn't open on the first lap after the red flag, after the safety car, but it is being used now. Max Verstappen has just set a new fastest lap at a 1:18.2, so he's already pulling away from the two McLarens. It's looking good still for Red Bull after his dominant lead early in the race. He's now pulling away once again. Piastri 2.7 seconds behind. Lewis Hamilton is on the attack of George Russell. Russell just about defending that position. That is for 6th place.
Yeah, Hamilton spent his entire race tucked up behind the rear wing of a Mercedes. Firstly Antonelli, now George Russell. He's going to desperately try to find a way past. Leclerc is the cork in the bottle. Behind the top 3, it's Leclerc holding up Albon. Just half a second between the two. Albon will have DRS and will be desperate to find his way up into P4.
Yeah, and Albon's got a chance because he's on fresher tyres. So So this really could be a chance for Alex Albon. Williams making that pit stop under the safety car period. Let's see whether it's going to work. Up front, Verstappen still pulling away. It is now into DRS zone again for Lando Norris. Is he going to have a go at getting past his teammate as they head down towards Tamburello? He's got a good DRS zone, but no, he's not close enough to get alongside. And in the meantime, Hamilton is making a move on Russell. I think he's going to make it unless, yes, he's done it. George could not hold him off in the end. So Lewis Hamilton has moved up into 6th place. He now is chasing after Albon as well, but Albon is keeping the pressure on his teammate Leclerc.
Yeah, good move from Hamilton. He's now on the hard tyres, of course. Saw how quick that Ferrari was on the medium tyres, looking equally racy on the hard tyres. So maybe it's the lighter car that's really helping Lewis Hamilton and the characteristics of that Ferrari.
Lando Norris still close to Piastri in the battle for what is 2nd position right now, with Max Verstappen still holding the advantage up front and pulling away from everybody else. Charles Leclerc in 4th place, and Alex Albon is right on the back of that Ferrari. I tell you, Albon is putting the pressure on, but Hamilton is going to catch both of them, I think, quite quickly. Now that he's got past George Russell, I think there's some pace with Hamilton. We shall see how quickly he manages to close the gap. At the moment, it's just under 3 seconds. It will take a few laps, but I think he will catch. And in the meantime, Albon will be doing everything to get past Charles Leclerc. Right, we're into the zone once again where Lando Norris may be able to attack Piastri. We're riding on board, just watching to see whether he can pick up the DRS zone. He's in the right zone here. He's got good straight line speed, and he goes to the outside, but it's defence from the teammate, but he goes through. Lando Norris takes 2nd place. I was wondering when I was watching that, had the team told Piastri, but I don't think it did. I think that was a genuine battle.
Yeah, I think pretty clearly that the team at McLaren certainly did not make a decision to make those drivers switch positions. They were allowed to race. It was a good move from Lando Norris. A massive tyre offset, of course, helped him do that. But by now, they've let Verstappen get 5 seconds up the road. So whatever pace Lando Norris has got in that car, he needs to drag everything out of it. With only 5 laps to go, I suspect McLaren may have left this too late.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. At the end of the day, in terms of constructors' points, it won't make any difference, of course, but it will make a difference in terms of drivers' points and trying to get the 25 points for the race win. At the moment, it's looking like Max Verstappen is going to do that. Charles Leclerc still under pressure from Alex Albon. We're taking another look at the pass that Lando Norris made. It was with the DRS. He had a lot of straight line speed advantage, and although he braked nice and late, Piastri braked as late as he possibly could, but we can see the slide on Piastri's car. He's just not got the grip, has he?
They were so close to making contact through the middle of that chicane as Piastri came off the curb and slid slightly across the racetrack. A little bit of understeer. His front wheel almost made contact with the floor of his teammate, but they both lived to fight another day.
Here comes Alex Albon on Leclerc. Not quite. I thought he was going to get a chance to get alongside him there, but it didn't happen. But Albon is not giving up, and Leclerc's definitely struggling on these warm tyres. He's having to defend very hard.
Yeah, just 4 laps to go now in which any of these guys that have got the fresher tyres, that's Albon versus Leclerc. We've seen Norris already get past Piastri. Out front is Verstappen with a 5.5 second lead over Lando Norris. The race is his to lose here with just 4 laps now to go. Verstappen has everything under control, it seems.
Verstappen leads, Norris 2nd, Piastri 3rd, Leclerc under pressure from Albon 4th and 5th. Hamilton in 6th place and is getting closer. Hamilton is definitely catching that group. Russell in 7th, Sainz in 8th, Hadjar in 9th place, and Yuki Tsunoda completes the top 10. But Lewis Hamilton has got much closer very quickly to these two.
Yeah, he has closed up right behind the two of them, so it's a sandwich between the two Ferraris with Alex Albon in the front, in the middle of it rather, but Leclerc, the slower out of these 3 cars on the older tyres, sliding as he comes through all of these corners, holding up Albon, holding up Hamilton. One of them, they go into the DRS section of this racetrack now, down the start-finish straight. Albon picks up DRS, so does Hamilton. They're closing and closing on the back of Leclerc. Can he get through this time around?
Around the outside, Alex Albon has a move around the outside, but Leclerc's braking late on the inside. Oh, and off goes, he goes off, Albon goes off, and Hamilton's going to get past him, I think, because he had to back off a little bit. Now that could be an argument. It will be looked at once again because Leclerc ran wide through the corner. It depends exactly where they were, but the Ferrari fans are getting so excited out here because Leclerc is now 4th and Hamilton is 5th with Albon down to 6th place.
Well, you can bet your bottom dollar that Albon will be on the radio in a moment telling them he's been pushed off the racetrack by Charles Leclerc. That's one for the stewards to pick apart. It looked very, very close as we get a replay. Albon got right up behind the back of the Ferrari, overtook him with DRS, but as they came came into the braking zone. It was Leclerc late on the brakes.
That wasn't fair.
Surprise, surprise. There we go. That was Albon suggesting that it wasn't fair. It was one of those situations where Leclerc left the braking very, very late. He rolled up alongside Alex Albon, but at that point they'd gone through the apex of the corner. Albon had nowhere to go, but it's such a tight chicane. It's a really difficult one. I've seen them penalised before. I've also seen them being put down as a racing incident.
Yeah, and the rules have changed very slightly. I'm going to be very interested to see what happens. Meanwhile, Hamilton is actually putting his teammate under pressure now. Lewis Hamilton is in a chance to get past Charles Leclerc. He's got the DRS zone and they're heading down towards that chicane again. Hamilton goes around the outside and he takes the place. Lewis Hamilton is up in a 4th place, and for the Ferrari team that started down in 11th and 12th, now they're running 4th and 5th. A fantastic effort, and Hamilton particularly doing a great job on a fresher set of tyres.
And it's not done yet because Piastri's on a very old worn set of tyres, only 2.5-3 seconds up the road. That was a crucial move from Hamilton to get past his teammate. He's got 2 laps now to try and close down on the McLaren of Oscar Piastri and see if he could do the unthinkable and get a Ferrari onto the podium after that disastrous qualifying yesterday.
Alex Albon hasn't given up on getting back past Charles Leclerc either. He is still trying to get past Leclerc from where he is in 6th place to try and get into 5th. Meanwhile, George Russell is a bit further back in 7th place. Carlos Sainz is in 8th place. Isaac Hadjar still in 9th. In fact, Hadjar right behind Carlos Sainz at this point. And the final point for Yuki Tsunoda at this stage, he's down in 10th place ahead of the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso. Right, we shall see. Alex Albon, we're just listening to the power unit on the Williams because Alex is now trying to get into that DRS zone again. He is in DRS zone as they come down over the start-finish line, and has he got the chance to try and get past Charles Leclerc? He has definitely got a great run down towards the chicane, but no, it doesn't happen this time.
Not quite, and there is just over 1 lap to go. Verstappen has a 6.5 second lead over Lando Norris as Albon has another go on Charles Leclerc. Not doing this time. He's all over the back of the Ferrari. The Ferrari struggling with tyre grip, just got nothing left in those rear tyres on the Scarlet Ferrari in front of their home crowd. He's going to have another go now. Squirming around is the Williams. He's all over the back. They run down towards turn 8. Has he got anything this time? Not this time around, and they are running out of opportunities very quickly.
Yeah, it's tough, but there still could be the odd chance to do so. Meanwhile, Isaac Hadjar, by the way, has got very close to the back of Carlos Sainz, and they're both quite close to George Russell. So they are Russell in 7th, Sainz in 8th, Hadjar in 9th position. There could be a change amongst those drivers as well. As you say, Max Verstappen is in dominant form, as he has been pretty much throughout this race, with a brilliant first corner to take the lead of this race. He has got back into an advantage of 6.3 seconds. Leclerc has been told to give back the position on Albon, and that is because of what happened before when he did push Albon out wide. Albon complained, and the team have now told him to give the place, so presumably he will do it now. Let's have a look. Albon goes to the inside, heading down to that chicane. Yes, Albon has taken the place.
It's a sensible move because the field's so bunched up. If he were to take a 5-second penalty, that would cost him multiple positions. Verstappen started the final lap of this Grand Prix. He is going to win this race by some absolute disaster, but who is going to come third?
That's how racing is now. When you cut fast, you need to let fast. This is a joke. What did I do wrong?
Well, that will be talked about afterwards, what he did wrong. It has dropped Leclerc down into 6th place, but we are on the final lap here at Imola, and it's another dominant performance by Max Verstappen at this particular track. Meanwhile, Hamilton is getting closer to Piastri for the potential 3rd place. Whether he's going to catch him on this last lap, we shall see. But for Max Verstappen, who has been so dominant here at Imola over the last few years, he comes across, the checker flag is out, Max Verstappen wins the Imola Grand Prix yet again, the Emilia Romagna. He wins it for the 4th time consecutively, from 21 to 22 into 2024, and now in 2025. Incredible. 2nd goes to Lando Norris, 3rd goes to Oscar Piastri. Hamilton does settle for 4th place race in the end. He was close, but he wasn't close enough to attack Piastri. Albon finishes in 5th place for Williams, 6th place for Charles Leclerc, 7th for George Russell, 8th place for Carlos Sainz, 9th for Isaac Hadjar, and the final point does go to Yuki Tsunoda, who had that horrible crash yesterday, but he's got a point, and Red Bull have got the victory and another point from their teammate, and they are all celebrating in the pit lane.
Yeah, it was textbook stuff from Verstappen and Red Bull today. They kind of executed everything perfectly. They had a few challenges on the way. Starting from second on the grid, it was crucial to get by that first corner, and that's exactly what Max Verstappen did.
Grande Max. Nice job, mate. Nice job.
Wow, Max. 400 races and you've won it. Brilliant. Brilliant drive. Brilliant weekend. Well done, mate. You really, really dominated that race.
Yeah, exactly that. Brilliant weekend. That was a fantastic execution all around. Thank you very much. And yeah, not out on our 400 race. Well done, everyone. That was a very strong Saturday and Sunday, so well deserved that. Great job.
What a way to celebrate the 400th Grand Prix for the Red Bull team, with him taking yet another victory in his career. And it is Red Bull's 124th win in their career of now having done 400 Grand Prix, and their 4th here, all with Max Verstappen. Remarkable performance. And McLaren on this occasion having to settle for 2nd and 3rd. Of course, in the Constructors' Championship they already had a massive lead anyway, and they gained more points effectively by having both cars finishing podium. But a really interesting performance. Max Verstappen has taken victory at Red Bull's 400th Grand Prix, and he's taken his 4th consecutive win at Imola. Remarkable performance. He delivered superbly. Lando Norris finished in 2nd place for McLaren, ahead of his teammate Oscar Piastri. They had a little battle right at the end of the race, 2nd and 3rd. So Piastri, the man who had pole, missed out. And Lewis Hamilton, having started all the way down in 12th place, had a good result for Ferrari. He finished in 4th position. So the cars now heading their way back into the pit lane. Isaac Hadjar, another one who scored points. He finished in 9th place with Racing Bulls. Yuki Tsunoda, as I mentioned, he got the final point in 10th. But I have to say, I did think this race might be just one of those that was just pretty much the same all the way through. But we had a lot of variation, partly through safety cars. Hamilton?
But it's supposed to that also there.
Something to celebrate, definitely. They didn't quite get the podium, but to have started 12th and finished 4th for the Ferrari fans, I think that's something to celebrate.
Well, he's certainly a lot happier than he was this time a couple of weeks ago in Miami, wasn't he? Because that was a difficult weekend for Lewis, particularly on that side of the garage. This time he's pulled the result out of the bag that will at least put smiles on the faces of all of those fans there. But not the result they're looking for in the grand scheme of things. That goes to Max Verstappen, who executed almost perfectly. There'll be some questions over McLaren and how they played out this race, and analyse that themselves. But 2nd and 3rd, still a fantastic result for the team. They stretched their lead in the Constructors' Championship, and this championship rolls on. It does roll on, no doubt about it. Verstappen taking the victory, his 2nd win of the year after that victory in Japan, where he did such a brilliant job. He's done another brilliant job at Imola. They are the sort of circuits he loves, and that pass he made on the opening lap was very impressive. It was clean, and he did it, and he was able to pull away. Max Verstappen taking another victory here at Imola. He's so hard to beat here. But as you say, for McLaren, they've had some decent results. At least they've got the 2 podiums. For Norris, it's his 6th podium of the season. It is for Piastri as well. And for McLaren, they've had plenty of success in the past here at Imola, but it's many years actually since they've last had a win, and it's still going to be that big gap back to David Coulthard in 1998 when they last won at Imola. It still hasn't happened, even though they had the pace in qualifying. They didn't quite get the victory on this occasion. Lando? There was a lot for the teams to contend with today, weren't there? Some changing circumstances, the virtual safety car and then the full safety car. They planned for a sort of fairly dull one-stop race, and they got anything but that, which is wonderful for us watching on board. It exceeded all of my expectations. I loved every single second of it. I thought we got some brilliant executions up and down the field. I can point to the likes of the Williams having a wonderful afternoon. Max Verstappen, of course, doing everything, I think, almost perfectly. So some really good performances performances.
I agree with that. Yeah, Albon getting matching his best this year with a 5th place finish. It's actually the 3rd time he's finished 5th this year, and for Williams, getting these regular points is working extremely well for them. Charles Leclerc was 6th in the end, a bit disappointed, as we'd heard on the radio, with what had been going on for him with tyres, etc. George Russell missing out a bit, but Carlos Sainz scoring points again for Williams. He's been a bit unluckier in the races in terms of strategy, but he's been qualifying extremely well, and the Williams team generally doing a great job. So we shall see as we go through the rest of this year. And of course, we're into a 3 weekends with Monaco coming up next weekend, and I would imagine that Max Verstappen will be very happy to have had the performance he's had here. It's a very different circuit when you go to Monaco, but to have the confidence coming off a track like this always helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Monaco is literally all about confidence.
Let's hear from David Coulthard's interview.
Well, Oscar, it was a brilliant Saturday, not such a strong Sunday. You got to take us right at the beginning. It looked like you had the corner, and in the end, Max swept around the outside.
Yeah, just brake too early, and I mean, it was a good move by Max as well. So disappointing, obviously, but I think we made a few wrong calls after that, anyways, and not our best Sunday. So definitely a lot of things to look at and review from that one. But well done to Max and Red Bull. I think it was a good move, but also they had pace today. So we'll look back at that one and see what we can do a bit better.
The rest of the race was obviously decided by first virtual safety car, the luck of the draw when you make your stop, and then the full course safety car put us in the cockpit for those particular events and restarts.
Yeah, it was tricky. Obviously the VSC was perfectly timed for Max and Lando, and then I'd obviously used both my tyres at that point, so both my hard tyres, so made the last restart pretty tricky, and I tried my best to hang on to second, but just had nowhere near enough grip, so third it is.
Just on that overtake from your teammate, always difficult when two cars are going into a nip tight apex, just enough room for them there, but when you're on those older tyres, it was pretty close with your front axle.
Yeah, it was tricky. I tried my best to hang on, but just didn't have the grip, and I tried my best, and it was inevitable. I think it was going to get past, but I wasn't going to give up without a fight.
Yeah, well, congratulations. Still a podium. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have our second place finisher here, Lando Norris. Well, it was an interesting Grand Prix. You started 4th, so that looked like it was going to make it a long afternoon for you. But as the race went on, it came to you, and we saw that brilliant battle in the end with your teammate.
Yeah, it was a long race from that perspective. Not easy to overtake, but we did what we could. I think Max drove a good race. They were quick today, and then probably a bit quicker. We couldn't keep up, and we had a good little battle at the end between Oscar and myself, which is always tense, but always good fun. But a good race. From us as a team, second and third is great. Of course, we would love to be up there fighting against Max, but they were too good for us today.
We saw some great wheel-to-wheel action with you having to go around the outside at the second chicane of the Mercedes. Just explain to us, when you commit on those sort of overtakes, you're putting a lot of trust in the guy on the inside.
Yeah, I mean, it's with George, and I could tell his tyres were struggling quite. He was struggling with the tyres a lot. So it's just a situation you've got to take advantage of. I mean, it's always risky. You never want to take too much risk, but we're also racing, and he's a fair racer. He's a good racer, so some good moves today. Well,
congratulations on that result. And by the way, you smell spectacular. I don't know what McLaren cologne you have. As we come to our victor. Well, Max, when the lights went out, it looked like you were staring down the barrel of coming out of the first corner in third place. You had, with Oscar had made the very good start. We had George right up his gearbox, but somehow you had the commitment to go around the outside. Relive that moment.
Yeah, the start itself wasn't particularly great, but then I was still on the outside line, or basically the normal line. And I was like, well, I'm just going to try and stand around the outside, and it worked really well. That, of course, then unleashed our pace, because once we're in the lead, the car was good. I could look after my tires, and we had a very good pace on it today. So again, massive improvement from Friday, and I'm very, very pleased with that. Then, that VSC was quite handy to pit. And even then, even on the hard compound, I think our pace was very strong. But then, of course, there was a safety car, so the field was all back together. But even then, on the restart, I think we managed it all really well, and brought it home. Incredibly proud of everyone. It's been a very important week for us. The cars performed really well. And also, I think the whole execution of the whole race, went to pit, the pit stops themselves, they were all very good.
So it's the 400th Grand Prix for the team, your 65th victory, which, congratulations, that's an incredible statistic. We're into this triple header here. Well, you started it with also doing a bit of running last weekend as well. It seems that you just want to be on track at all times.
Yeah, I mean, I like driving. I like, of course, racing in Formula One. I like racing any kind of car. And, of course, next week, completely different kind of track in Monaco. That's also going to be very challenging. But for the moment, I just want to enjoy today and really take it in.
Well, we do want you to do that, but maybe just a quick word to the fans here at this Grand Prix. It's a historic racetrack, one that gave us a great Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fantastic to be in Italy. Proper passion for motorsports. So, it's fantastic to see all these fans out here the whole weekend. Thank you very much for coming and supporting all the drivers.
Max, congratulations. Enjoy the podium.
Thank you.
Max Verstappen, the winner at Imola, ahead of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. And after McLaren dominated in Miami by such a way, this time Max Verstappen has shown he's got excellent pace elsewhere with the Red Bull.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the beauty of this season. The performance is going to sort of ebb and flow as we go to different types of racetracks. As you just heard, next week in Monaco, just 7 days away, a completely different type of track. We've seen Ferrari go very strongly there. That's not about outright speed and top-end performance. It's about dialing the drivers into the nuance of that tight and twisty circuit. So everything could and probably will still change as we continue through this exciting season.
It is a great season, and we will be looking forward to it. Great to have you with us. But for now, it's time to go back to Kevin Howes.
I think it's time for a job swap. Just for 1 week of the summer, because we run parallel with the Grand Prix. I mean, I'm looking forward to Worcester, I think, next week. But Worcester, Monaco, come on, Ben, you fancy a trip to Worcester, I'm sure. Anyway, that is it from the team for today on Sports Extra. But, of course, there's the podcast to come. There'll be more coverage over on 5 Live this afternoon as they look back on that Grand Prix as well. But don't forget to download the podcast. The team will be looking at what has been going on there in Imola. And no doubt looking ahead to next weekend as well. And I am looking forward to Worcester, of course. And Worcestershire are in a very strong position as we look at what's going on up and down the country on day 3.